My name is Sophie. I'm a transmigrator who ended up inside a novel. And not only did I almost expose that I wasn't the original owner of this body, I was also harassed at work. And then, for 6,000 gold, I was sold by my friend to the bloodthirsty villain of the book. This is the place I transmigrated into. A border village. A place surrounded by beautiful mountain ranges and a vast lake. Best of all, there's no job market pressure. No need to squeeze onto the subway every day. And the body I transmigrated into belonged to Sophie, a commoner who had drifted here, on an employee, a character never once mentioned in the novel, and living out in the countryside, too. It was perfect. The only pity was that on such a beautiful day, the inn happened to be doing a full cleaning. I couldn't go on outing. I really wanted to sneak away. Just as my thoughts were wandering, a hand suddenly grabbed my shoulder. It startled me. Turns out it was Jella, my body's old best friend. I called you so many times just now. Didn't you hear me? Jella asked. Sorry, I was thinking about something else. I kept trying to calm my pounding heart and replied. You've been acting really strange lately. You don't even react to your own name. Are you sure your body's fully recovered? Jella asked suspiciously. My body's fine. It's already been a month. I was just spacing out because the weather's so nice, I said guiltily. Since the weather's so good today, how about we go have a drink after work? Jella suggested. I naturally agreed at once. Right then, the innkeeper came over to greet us. Sophie, Jella, are you girls actually working? Oh, did I scare you? Beautiful ladies doing the laundry. The innkeeper kept edging closer with a lecherous grin. He even reached for Jella's skirt. The innkeeper was the one thing I hated most about this place. I immediately stopped his wandering hand and snapped. Boss, if you keep this up, your hand's going to be useless. Sophie, you're fast. And so strong, too. The boss slunk away after all. Jella happily thanked me, and I waved it off. One of these days, I'm really going to beat him up properly, I said angrily. During the break, everyone gathered together to enjoy the breeze and chat. I heard the capital issued a marriage decree, someone beside me said. They say His Majesty is getting married soon. How enviable. Which young lady is going to marry His Majesty? A maid asked expectantly. Are we finally going to have an empress? In a remote little village like this, commoners love to gather and gossip about this kind of thing. But I already knew everything from the novel. The future empress they were all looking forward to was the novel's heroine, Sophie. Aren't you curious? Jella looked at me. You know I'm not interested in stuff like that, I answered. But actually I knew a lot. I just absolutely couldn't say any of it out loud. For example, the marriage decree that had just been issued would soon be canceled. And the emperor wouldn't marry a noble lady from his own country, but a princess from a small kingdom. That princess would save people from all kinds of desperate situations. If I said things like that, it would be a miracle if I didn't get arrested. Sophie, you really are something. You're not interested in noble affairs at all. Jella said with a laugh. Exactly. Sophie has this mysterious air. I thought she might be some runaway noble lady, the others chimed in. I've been hearing that kind of thing for the past month. My ears were about to grow calluses, still from their chatting. I also learned more about the Sophie whose body I possessed. She hadn't been born and raised in this village. She had suddenly appeared here a few years ago. And when she first arrived, she had been in a terrible state. And Sophie's face was no ordinary face either. It was the kind that made people look twice. The maids were still gossiping. Sophie's face really was beautiful. Golden eyes, rose-colored curls, and a pear blossom-shaped scar. There were many other wounds and scars on her body, too. What exactly had poor Sophie gone through before this? She had coughed up blood and died at only 21. That was when I transmigrated into her body. Have you heard about the Sedley Duke's family? One maid said, changing the subject. A few years ago, their young lady Amelia went missing. They practically turned the entire empire upside down looking for her. I heard they've come all the way here this time. I wonder if that child is still alive. I hope she is. The maids discussed it eagerly. But I, who knew the novel's plot, already knew the ending of that young lady, Amelia. She was dead. Bastian, the Sedley Duke, was one of the villains in the book. He inherited his family title at a young age. He looked gentle, but in reality, he was a madman. After his younger sister disappeared, he went even more completely insane. When he got bored, he killed people. Because the heroine resembled his sister, he imprisoned her. Luckily, I had no role in the novel. I definitely didn't want to get tangled up with someone like that. So of course that young lady must have died. Otherwise, the story couldn't have unfolded. I heard about that young lady's appearance. The maids were still discussing. I wasn't very interested and was just thinking about whether I should cut my hair when I heard a maid beside me say, "That young lady had rose-colored hair, golden eyes, and a butterfly-shaped scar on her leg." In an instant, everyone turned to look at me. "Isn't that Sophie?" everyone said in unison. It hit me like a bolt from the blue. I was now standing at a crossroads in life. If I really was that missing young lady, Amelia, then even though I'd never cared much about the plot before, I now needed to sort it all out properly. Calm down and think. How did this novel go again? The title was A Certain Princess's Fairy Tale. The story was about Princess Teresa of a border kingdom, who came to the Rahadan Empire as a tribute maiden and lived there bravely, eventually falling in love with the emperor on a summer night. But the most important thing right now was the villain, Bastian. He was the beginning of all the heroine Teresa's suffering and adversity. As a duke, Bastian held power comparable to the royal family. As the emperor's right-hand man, he had become duke at a very young age, and his abilities were unquestionable. With his handsome face and tolerant personality, he seemed like the perfect man. Unfortunately, he was a total lunatic. Because someone resembled his sister, he would even kill his friend's lover. He killed people at the slightest provocation, buried bodies behind the estates of nobles he disliked, imprisoned the heroine, and even tried to murder her. I stared blankly at the memories I had dredged up. If I got involved with someone like that, I'd really die, wouldn't I? The next day, Jella was startled when she saw me. "Sophie, why do you look so lifeless? Look at that pretty face. You've grown so haggard." How could I not? After yesterday's conversation, I replied, "What's so bad about a duke's household? It's the #1 noble family in the empire. Should I start speaking to you respectfully now?" Jella teased. Her words gave me goosebumps all over. "I like it here. I'm absolutely not leaving this place," I said firmly. After Amelia came to the village 5 years ago, she stayed hidden here all this time. She was probably trying to escape her brother, right? Jella happily threw herself at me and said, "Sophie, you cutie, you really love our village." I'm actually a little touched. Believe me, even if someone offered me 5,000 gold, I wouldn't sell you out. And I'll make sure the employees from yesterday keep the secret too, Jella promised. I'm on your side. No matter what your status was before, if you hate something, I hate it too. Hearing that, I was moved too and threw myself at Jella. If I could stay with my real friend Jella, then the Duke's house meant nothing to me. Anyway, according to the novel, the Duke would never find me. Then, early the next morning, I heard a huge commotion outside, followed by loud banging on the door. "Who's checking into the inn this early?" I yawned and opened the front door. "You're Sophie, correct? I came from the capital. Your friend asked me to come find you," the visitor said with a smile. "Oh, right. She also left you a letter." He handed it to me, and I instantly woke all the way up. "Sophie, I'm sorry. Our friendship lost to 6,000 gold. Live well in the capital too. Love, your Jella." I felt like I'd been struck by lightning. The person who said yesterday that she wouldn't sell me out for 5,000 gold had abandoned me today for 6,000. I stared at the letter in shock, trembling. "My lords, perhaps there's been some misunderstanding. I'm just an ordinary employee." I tried weakly to struggle. "No," a knight said as he looked at me. I gave an awkward smile that had absolutely no persuasive power at all. "Miss, may I see your leg?" the knight asked. "There's no scar on my right leg. It's completely clean," I immediately explained. "I never said it was your right leg," the knight replied with a faint smile. I despaired at my own intelligence. "Miss, it must be you. There's no mistake." As soon as the knight captain said that, 2 knights appeared behind me and grabbed me. I shouted angrily, "I'm not Amelia. Why won't you believe what I'm saying?" "But I never mentioned the name Amelia." "How did you know it?" the knight captain asked awkwardly. Right? I really couldn't believe myself. I was such an idiot. "Jella, you little traitor. You said you wouldn't sell me out for 5,000 gold, and then turned around and sold me for 6,000. Sitting in the carriage, I was full of resentment. As I lamented the unpredictability of life and sighed, I failed to notice how uneasy the knight captain looked beside me. Is there something making you uncomfortable, miss? You've been sighing this whole time. Do you dislike this seat?" he asked cautiously. I took a moment to really feel it and couldn't help but marvel. As expected of a sofa bought at such a high price, it was incredibly comfortable. But how was I supposed to say that out loud? Could it be that the carriage is too bumpy? Or are you carsick? The knights outside driving the carriage immediately prepared to stop when they heard that. I had to quickly explain that there was no problem before we continued. Wasn't this treatment for a hostage a little too good? I thought wearily. Lady Amelia, if there is anything you are dissatisfied with, please be sure to tell me, the knight captain said very seriously, practically glowing. I was too embarrassed to say that what dissatisfied me most was his shining, sparkling eyes, so I could only cry inwardly. It would take about half a month to reach the capital by carriage. Did that mean I'd have to stay in the same space as the knights for half a month? I thought gloomily, completely unaware of how much pressure my gloomy mood was putting on him. The knight captain worried that I was uncomfortable riding in the carriage. We could use a magic array and arrive in 30 minutes, he suddenly suggested, having thought of a good idea. Right? I'd forgotten this was a world where magic existed. Warming magic instead of boilers. Spatial transfer magic instead of airplanes, and so on. Those were things ordinary commoners would never encounter, so I had forgotten all about them. Though not having to ride in the carriage with the knights anymore sounded nice. Wouldn't I die even faster if we got there that quickly? I thought in despair, and while I was despairing, the magic array was already almost ready. Suddenly, a violent tremor and a huge, explosive sound startled me. I hugged myself in fright, while the knight captain beside me struggled not to laugh. Puffed. The knight captain failed to hold it in and let out a quiet laugh. If looks could kill, I'd have committed an unforgivable crime already. Soon enough, we arrived in the capital. The capital really was very different from the little village. I had only just finished marveling when the knight captain informed me. We've arrived at the Duke's mansion. I had had absolutely no time to prepare, and we were already here. But why did a villain's house look so beautiful? The whole atmosphere was unexpectedly bright. I had thought it would be gloomy and sinister. Just after the knight captain told me someone else would take over from here, I heard the rapid sound of a crowd running over. When I turned around, 3 tearful maids rushed toward me. Where did you go? Why did you only come back now? I thought you had died. The maids cried and clamored all at once. Wait, what was with this atmosphere? Why did this feel like a heartfelt reunion scene? I was a little stunned. Well, when in doubt, start with a greeting. I coughed twice and said awkwardly, "Hello, I am Amelia." Unexpectedly, the maids all looked shocked. The 3 of them stared at me in a daze and asked blankly, "Mississippi, are you feeling unwell somewhere?" After some explanation, I declared that I had amnesia. After all, what noble would speak politely to maids? The maids were in tears, unable to believe it. I would have liked to put on an act, but Amelia was just a tiny cannon fodder side character in the novel. I knew basically nothing about her. I couldn't fake it at all, so I could only sit there while the maids fussed noisily. At that moment, a woman pushed open the door and entered. "I am Monica, the person in charge," she said politely. "May I direct them now?" She felt very reliable. I hurriedly nodded, eager to escape this noisy situation. If this continues, the young lady's memory won't recover either. Everyone, go do what you can for now. Monica clapped her hands as she gave orders. The head chef has prepared hot food. The young lady's bedroom also needs to be arranged again. The rest of the maids, come help. In just a few seconds, Monica had assigned both people in tasks. Then Monica turned to arrange things for me. "If you don't mind, may we help you bathe?" she asked. After I agreed, the maids, who had only just calmed down, became noisy all over again over who would get to bathe me. In the end, they had to draw lots. The winning maid cried tears of joy. The losing maids were quietly heartbroken. The winner stuck out her tongue and teased them. "You all can go clean. We're going to bathe the young lady." The maids felt more like children than servants. Even during the bath, the maids were noisy. They kept enthusiastically adding all kinds of things to my bathwater. The moment I showed the slightest interest in anything, I'd get showered in endless compliments. I was starting to feel like I couldn't handle it. Their enthusiasm was a little too much. If Master and Madam were still alive, they would be so happy to know that you came back alive, miss, a maid said. After the second young master left, and then you suddenly disappeared, the Duke, who used to be so kind, never smiled again. Another maid said gloomily. "Then why didn't all of you leave? Working in that kind of atmosphere must have been terrifying," I asked. "We believed you would definitely come back, miss," the maid said excitedly. My eyes filled with moved tears. Looking at it this way, Amelia really had a tragic fate. Her parents died young. One brother was insane. Another ran away from home. And after going missing herself, she ended up living as a commoner. Such a heartbreaking fate took only 2 or 3 lines in the novel. If she was just a supporting character, couldn't the author have written her a more ordinary life? I let out a deep sigh, only to find that my sudden sigh scared the maids badly. They nervously asked whether they were scrubbing too slowly. I hurriedly denied it. Looks like in the future, I'd have to sigh behind their backs. What a sweet kind of trouble. Just then, a maid hurriedly pushed open the door and said, "The Duke is on his way here." It was like another bolt from the blue. I knew he would come back, but I hadn't expected it this soon. The noisy little puppies were about to lose their owner again the day after he returned. I looked at the maids and thought sadly. They all kept asking me whether I was excited to see the Duke, whether I missed him very much. Seen this way, Bastian really did put on a perfect angelic front. For years, he had even been ranked the capital's top husband candidate. He was a calm and scheming madman. If I exposed Bastian as a murderer right now, I'd definitely be the one treated like a lunatic. And in the novel, Bastian really had killed people who suspected him. He even acted grief-stricken at their funerals. Though then again, one of those people had tried to poison him when he was 5, so in the end they were all crazy anyway. As the maids helped me into a dress, they cried and said, "I truly can't believe I'm able to help the young lady dress again." After saying that, the two of them burst into tears together. I sighed helplessly. Come to think of it, when exactly had Bastian become completely insane? I think it was before the National Foundation anniversary banquet, before he met the heroine. After he accepted the reality of his sister's death and had finally calmed down, he met the heroine, Teresa, who had a temperament similar to Amelia's. After his kidnapping plan failed, he then tried to join forces with other rebels to overthrow the empire. In the end, he was defeated by the emperor, who had once been his closest friend, and met a tragic death. My return now should change that outcome, right? Maybe I would end up replacing Teresa as the sacrifice. After all, Bastian had started going mad 2 years ago. By now, he was probably completely gone. While I was still alive, maybe I should listen to the maid's praise one last time. At this point, I could die without regrets. As the maids cheered over a family reunion, all I could think was that human joys and sorrows truly were not shared. Sitting on the sofa, I was served a cup of black tea by Monica. "I'm sorry I couldn't prepare the flower tea you like, Mississippi. We only have black tea for now." "Anything is fine," I replied. The scenery was beautiful. As a leaf drifted down, it felt like I was seeing my own fate. I almost wanted to give up struggling altogether so I could stop being so anxious all the time. Just then, Bastian pushed open the door and entered. My gaze froze instantly. "So handsome." Those are the only 2 words left in my head. All my fear and panic flew right out of my mind. A face lover stays a face lover even in death. That hair, that face, that presence, full marks, all of it. I watched as Bastian rushed straight toward me. The vines of fear wrapped around me again. Goodbye, world. And goodbye to Jella, who sold me out. See you in hell. I shut my eyes in despair. But instead of a cold blade, what met me was a warm, fragrant embrace. And it choked. "Amel, you're alive." The tight hug was so warm. "You're not hurt, are you? Not sick? How did you get so thin? What on earth happened? How did you end up all alone that far to the east?" One question and one concern after another came raining down on me. "I thought I was going to lose you," Bastian said through tears. This guy was actually crying. I was utterly shocked. Was this really the villain from the novel? Holding my face, Bastian said, "It's all right now. Amel, you don't have to worry about anything anymore." I could feel the hands holding me, trembling uncontrollably. Maybe I wasn't going to die after all. Why did this person look so pitiful? I steadied his trembling hands and said, "Duke." Bastian looked as if he had been struck by lightning. He stared at me in shock, then immediately turned toward his attendant in confusion. "Shioen, I'm sorry, my lord. The young lady has lost her memory," Shioen explained fearfully. Bastian immediately drew his sword and pointed it at Shioen. "What was my order?" he demanded. "To bring the young lady safely back to the Duke's mansion," Shioen answered with his head lowered. "My sister has lost her memory. Can I take that to mean you failed to obey my order?" Bastian asked in a dark voice. "I have no excuse," Shioen said, bowing his head and preparing to accept punishment. I was dumbstruck beside them. Why had he suddenly drawn a sword? My amnesia wasn't caused by this night at all. This was all the author's fault for giving Amelia's family such a ridiculous setup. "Atone with your life," Bastian said murderously. Shioen accepted it at once. I was scared out of my mind. "Wait a second." I immediately stepped in to stop him. Bastion looked at me. His icy gaze fell on me, and the pressure was overwhelming. Isn't human life supposed to be precious? I shouted with my eyes squeezed shut in fear. My heart felt like it was about to leap out of my throat. Does it really have to come to bloodshed? Besides, my amnesia wasn't caused by this night. So please put your sword away. After listening to me, the cold aura around Bastion dispersed. He sighed and said, "I'm sorry, Amel. Did I scare you?" I instantly saw hope, so he could be reasoned with after all. But then Bastion turned and started walking outside, saying, "Then I'll punish him outside." What? I tried to stop him, but Bastion smiled gently and said something horrifying. "Don't worry, I'll wipe the blood away, so just wait here peacefully for me. I was telling you not to kill anyone. I was starting to lose it." I truly could not understand what the author of this novel had been thinking. Why on earth hadn't they mentioned that Bastion was a sister-obsessed maniac? While lying on the bed for the doctor's examination, just thinking about that unreliable author made my teeth itch with anger. This was totally messing with me. I fumed inwardly. After the examination, the doctor reported my condition to Bastion. She is very healthy. There are no problems whatsoever. Well, of course, I had lived such a healthy and regular life in that village. I even ate vegetables often, but Bastion darkly ordered him to examine me again. The doctor hesitated fearfully and said, "In terms of physical health, the young lady truly has no issues at all. We've already checked 12 times today." The doctor rubbed his nearly cramped fingers as he spoke. "There's another way to treat amnesia." I immediately turned to signal him with my eyes. If there was a method, why didn't you say so before the 12th examination? The doctor sighed, probably thinking he simply hadn't had time to get the words out. During the young lady's disappearance, she likely suffered severe harm. There are traces of damage to the energy in her body. Her memories were not artificially sealed away. Rather, they were erased entirely, leaving her like a blank sheet of paper. Hearing the doctor's words, I immediately guessed was the trace of energy damage referring to Amelia's death before I possessed this body? "What method is it?" Bastion asked at once. "Only one person can do it," the doctor replied. "He is a wizard living on the Western continent. What he uses is not magic, but some kind of mysterious power. But he has shut himself away for nearly 100 years, and his temperament is cruel and unpredictable." As I listened to the doctor's description, it oddly sounded familiar. I felt like I had heard of him somewhere before. "What are his physical characteristics?" Bastion asked. "It is said he has black hair and red eyes," the doctor answered. Black hair and red eyes. Someone with those features had to be Khalees. I thought of him immediately. A crazed, defective personality. The other of the novel's two great villains. He had been born with the cursed blood of the dragon god and possessed beautiful, terrifying power. But he always used his abilities however he pleased. If someone annoyed his eyes, he killed them. One year he could grant a city his blessing, and the next year destroy it with his own hands. Compared to him, the other villain, Bastion, almost seemed better. At least Bastion didn't kill people purely for fun. "Then try contacting him first," Bastion instructed. And then it hit me. In the novel, wasn't Bastion the one who joined forces with Khalees and threw the whole continent into chaos? After Bastion failed to imprison the heroine, he invited Khalees to wake from his long dormancy. Bored and idle, Khalees immediately accepted. Together, the two of them turned the capital into ruins. Khalees even split the continent in two. That was the result of those two lunatics meeting and working together. "Brother, I think I'm healthy enough even without recovering my memories. I wanted to stop this possible future meeting that might destroy the world." "Didn't you say he's dangerous?" "Compared to my memories, I think being able to see you again is more important. Being able to come home is already enough for me." After hearing that, Bastion pulled me tightly into his arms. "No matter what, Amel, you always worry about your family first," he said, moved. I patted him comfortingly while guiltily thinking that all I really wanted was to stay alive. "But even if I have to cut off that man's limbs, I will bring him back," Bastion said darkly. Then he instructed his attendant, "Inform His Majesty that I intend to visit him, and thank him for sending the Imperial Court's chief physician." Before leaving, Bastion kissed my forehead and said, "Don't worry, your brother will take care of it." "Okay," I replied. But in truth, I was out of ideas. The situation seemed to be getting even worse. Just yesterday, I had been in the peaceful countryside with beautiful mountains and rivers. How had my life become like this now? Tears spilled down. Moon. I looked at the serene moon outside and made a silent wish in my heart. I have one wish. Please let me survive. And on a distant tower, Alexandra, did the Blood Empress vine grow well yesterday? So cute. Should I move you into a pink flower pot tomorrow? Said a white-haired girl, gently touching the leaves of the potted plant. At that moment, an attendant shoved the door open and shouted, "Lady Lu." The girl immediately gestured for silence. "Master is resting." Lowering his voice, the attendant said, "Something major has happened. We found that person. It has been confirmed that they were on the central continent. But over the past few years, their energy dropped sharply. A month ago, the energy disappeared completely." Hearing this, anger rose in the girl's chest. "That doesn't mean you found the person. It means you missed them, understand?" The subordinate continued. "The men we sent say a woman named Sophie left at the same time the energy vanished. According to informed sources, Sophie went to the capital. But the exact details, they said they wouldn't reveal them even for 6,000 gold. 6,000 gold? What is that? Why such a specific number?" The girl said in shock. "Humans really do haggle endlessly when it comes to money. That's enough. Continue the secret pursuit," the girl ordered. After the subordinate left, she entered her master's room on tiptoe. Master had already been in this dormancy for 100 years. At last, they had found the person they could not find even after searching the whole continent for the past 1,000 years. The girl thought this with relief. "I'll be able to bring you good news soon," she said softly. "I hope everything goes well before you awaken." The girl kissed her master's hand. Her master remained asleep, and so the search concerning Khalees also began in full swing. "The letter has already been sent. We bypassed the royal family and went directly toward the western continent, saving time. It should arrive next week," Shion reported. "By rule, entering the western continent requires the emperor's approval, but that will be too slow." Bastion curled his lips. "His Majesty will definitely be angry when he finds out," Bastion said with a cold laugh. "Now, then, what about the investigation results regarding Amelia?" Fortunately, over the past 5 years, the young lady remained safe and sound in the East. She was very close with a commoner named Jella. That commoner was the one who first provided information about Amelia. Bastion vaguely remembered her. Yes. Next, the boss. There was a problem with the owner of the inn where she worked. It is said he sexually harassed female employees and did not get along with the young lady. 3 years ago, he tried to make a move on her, and she nearly beat him until his bones broke. "Should we handle him according to protocol?" Shion asked after giving his report. "Bring him before me. I'll deal with him personally," Bastion said darkly. Shion swallowed nervously before continuing. "He has already been locked in the basement. You may go down at any time." Bastion immediately praised him. Early the next morning, the maids cheerfully woke me up. Apparently today Violet had won the right to serve me. She asked what I wanted to eat, and no matter how I answered, endless compliments followed. She was in extremely high spirits. Violet kept going. "You look so beautiful today. Our young lady is the best." She praised me until my face turned red. After Violet finished helping me wash and dress, she went out to prepare breakfast. This was my 4th day in the Duke's house. I had braced myself for the worst, but things had gone surprisingly smoothly. The maids seemed so happy that I had returned that their workload had doubled. Bastion was also very busy, and it was hard to see him. I was so bored. I'd rather be working. Wait, working? Right, I could find myself a job. I went to Monica and told her I wanted to do some work. Laundry or cleaning, anything. "Miss, you want to do laundry and cleaning?" Monica cried in shock and nearly fainted on the spot. "Miss, that is improper. With your noble status, how could you do such things?" she said sorrowfully. I quickly explained that I was just too bored. Amelia had known Monica since she was 6 years old. In Amelia's heart, Monica was like a mother. So when talking in front of her, I felt especially lacking in confidence. After thinking for a moment, Monica said, "There is indeed one thing the young lady can do." I was instantly delighted. I followed Monica. She led me into an office. It smelled faintly of fragrant wood. "This is the office for your estate. It has a fixed budget and runs independently. I am responsible for the ledgers and budget management," Monica explained. "These matters were originally to be handed over to you as the mistress of this estate. During your disappearance, I managed them in your place. If you wish to understand the estate better, you may look through these." Monica handed me the ledger. I took the ledger and stared at it wide-eyed, quietly counting. How many zeros was this exactly? Could all this money buy me several times over? If I could move some of this money, maybe I could run away before anything happened to Bastion. I quietly schemed in my heart. You've worked hard, Monica. Leave things to me from now on, I said with a smile. I was going to start saving money and then leave this place. After Monica left, I lost myself in the sea of gold figures in the ledger. Normally, a household needed 50 gold a month. To live from now until the age of 100 would probably require about 50,000. Buying a house would take 5,000. Adding emergency funds too, 60,000 gold would be enough for a lifetime. At the thought of that, I almost drooled. Wait, even if this was technically my money, did I have any legitimate reason to transfer out 60,000? I wiped my mouth and thought deeply. Compared to spending money, wasn't managing money more important? Keeping the interest as secret personal savings sounded even better. I could do business with Silver Moonstone. As someone who had read ahead, I alone knew this cheat code. Silver Moonstone was the raw material that carried the life force of this world's goddess. At the current point in the timeline, Silver Moonstone was still considered nothing more than a glowing stone. Once the heroine and the Imperial Court magician discovered its value, the price of Silver Moonstone would skyrocket. The Life Stone hadn't been introduced yet, so no one could use it, which meant exclusivity. A monopoly. Sure, this was seizing the opportunity ahead of time, but the heroine was destined to walk the flower path anyway. As long as business went well, I'd have enough money within a few years to run. But what about Khalees? If that guy met Bastion, things would be bad. Still, there was another year before Khalees was supposed to wake in the original story. Even if they contacted him now, he probably wouldn't reply. Besides, how could a person like that possibly care about recovering the memories of someone else's little sister? Impossible. For now, I could probably relax. Then all I had to do was save more money before Khalees woke up and make my escape. I swore boldly that I would absolutely survive smoothly and safely. A few days later, how's the food? Does it suit your taste? Bastion asked me. It's super delicious, I said around a mouthful as I happily chew my steak. That's good. If it didn't suit your taste, I was planning to replace the head chef, Bastion said lightly. That sounded to me like a murder warning. As if I said it tasted bad, the head chef would be killed. If you need anything, tell me anytime. I will grant it for you, Bastion said with a smile. That was another statement I had to answer carefully, because just 2 days ago, he had asked whether the roses were blooming beautifully lately. At the time, I had merely happened to notice the roses in the garden and casually praised them. Yes, Bastion had simply agreed. And then the next day, the yard had basically been conquered by roses. So I carefully chose my words and replied cautiously. I'm already very satisfied. I don't need anything. Really? There's truly nothing you want. Bastion looked at me sincerely. I pinched myself hard, warning myself not to be bewitched by his looks. Then Bastion changed the subject and asked how I felt about my recent work. I answered honestly. I didn't expect there to be so much to do. Things like daily necessities, servants, and purchasing new furniture. Bastion smiled with satisfaction and said, Then why not take this opportunity to go to the shopping district? You could buy what you need and also see the capital. Really? I asked in shock. Of course, Bastion replied. Because Bastion liked imprisoning people, I had assumed I wouldn't be allowed to go out. I might as well use this chance to investigate Silver Moonstone too. I calculated inwardly. Can I go this weekend? I asked excitedly. Bastion readily agreed. Just as I was figuring out what else I needed to buy besides furniture for the maids this weekend, someone burst into the room and flung himself at me excitedly. Who was this? I clenched my fists. Our Amelia's face has gotten half as thin. And you've grown so much taller too, the newcomer said, cupping my face. I was at a complete loss. Then Bastion moved. He grabbed the intruder by the collar and hurled him straight through the air. Thud! The little white-haired guy hit the ground, but was completely unhurt. Bastion drew his sword and asked ominously, Who are you? The newcomer rubbed his head and said, Seriously? You don't even recognize your own little brother. I only have one younger sister, Amelia, Bastion replied coldly, sword in hand. But I vaguely remembered that the novel had mentioned a younger son of the Duke's family who had run away from home 10 years ago. The newcomer sighed and said, Brother, are you getting senile? Sure, you've always been the type not to care about useless things, but how could you forget your own brother's face? I looked more closely and he really did resemble me a lot. From the moment he appeared, he'd been saying outrageous things. In a way, that abnormality really did feel like we were blood-related. Suddenly, the newcomer knocked Bastion's sword to the floor and held a knife to Bastion's throat. "One slash and brother dies, right?" he threatened. "If you want to spend your life as the murderer of a duke, then go ahead," Bastion said without the slightest panic. Neither of them was willing to back down. At this rate, one of them really was going to get hurt. I watched from the side like I was secretly enjoying a show. Then the newcomer suddenly looked at me and rushed over, shouting, "Little sis, that machi-like squishy face of yours, how did it get so thin? Though you're still cute now too. You must have had a hard time all this while. When Big Brother ran away from home back then, I should have taken you with me. But don't worry now. Big Brother will protect our little sis. Come with me to Moda." And with that, he actually picked me up. Bastion viciously gripped my second brother's arm and said, "Put Amel down before I say this nicely. Then get out." Second brother smiled and replied, "Brother, why don't you get lost instead? Better yet, die right now." Then he used magic. As the two of them faced off, explosions immediately started erupting throughout the room. After the fight settled, I asked helplessly, "Are you two fighting right now?" Second brother smiled and said, "Of course." Little sis looks really surprised. I had a headache. Right after the fight ended, second brother merely moved a finger and the collapsed room returned to its original state, which was why the two of them had fought with absolutely no restraint. "Do you remember what brother's name is?" Second brother asked. "Leon. Hard. Or Leon. Something. I don't know the rest." I answered apologetically, despite holding what was basically the script in my hand. Leon immediately said, "Little sis doesn't need to feel sorry. The ones who should feel sorry are your brothers for not doing enough." Leon turned and accused Bastion. "Fine, I ran away from home. But why did you let our little sis wander out there for 5 years?" Bastion snapped right back. "You, who didn't even know your sister was missing, are hardly in any position to say that." Leon immediately turned to me and pitifully said, "Sorry, little sis. Candidates at Modo are forbidden from any outside communication during training. Otherwise, forget training. I would have rushed back in one go no matter what." I said helplessly that I understood. After all, even the cowherd and weaver girl would sympathize with that story. And if he really had stayed at Moda after running away from home, then his abilities must be outstanding. In this world, Moda belonged to none of the continents. It was a neutral institution located on an island somewhere in unclaimed waters. Anyone who tried to force their way in would be swallowed by whirlpools and die. If you can't leave during Moda's trials, then have you given up your qualification now? I asked. Hearing that, Leon replied confidently, "I'm a master of Moda now, so it doesn't matter." Both Bastion and I were stunned. Was Moda really that desperate for people? I thought this blasphemously to myself. The previous Moda master died. That old man told me not to waste my talent. The remaining elders aren't much, so as his direct disciple, I became the next successor. I said that if anyone objected, they could fight me. But apparently they found that meaningless, Leon explained. "By the way, what about little sis's memory?" Leon asked. The imperial physician said treating this kind of amnesia with magic is difficult. I answered. The truth was that after I possessed this body, Amelia's memories had naturally vanished. But I couldn't exactly say that out loud. "Is that so? Then let brother take a look," Leon said, taking my hand. It really is hard to restore with magic. The energy inside little sis is strangely tangled together, Leon concluded after releasing my hand. I quietly breathed a sigh of relief. "Is there no other method?" Leon asked. Bastion told him what the physician had said. Leon immediately said he knew that person. Moda sent him invitations several times. Although he uses what looks like magic, what he uses isn't mana or divine power, so he's very famous in Moda. The previous Moda master was very interested in him, Leon recalled. Did he ever send a reply? Bastion pressed immediately. He ignored every single one, Leon said helplessly. Even my teacher's teacher wrote him countless letters. Mages who personally went to find him either failed or disappeared. There was no sign that they were alive, but no bodies were found either. Leon said, Khalees is an idle person who likes to toy with others when he's bored. There's no way he'd accept an invitation from Moda, which is obsessed with research. I peacefully took a sip of hot tea. But if that guy can restore our little sis's memory, then I'll just go capture him and bring him back, Leon said brightly, saying something horrifying. The hot tea I had just drunk sprayed right back out from shock. As I wiped my mouth, I tried to stop him. It's too dangerous. You can't go. But both brothers looked stubbornly determined. Early the next morning, the moment I opened my eyes, Leon suddenly crawled out from under the bed and greeted me. Why are you coming out from there? My voice practically cracked. Scratching his head, Leon grinned and said, I wanted to see you sooner, so I took the shortcut. Leon cheerfully invited me to go out and play with him, but there was somewhere I wanted to go even more. I'd gotten the library key from my eldest brother. I was going to the library today. I politely refused Leon's invitation because I wanted to look for information about Silver Moonstone. Then I'll go with you, Leon said with a smile. I quickly refused. No matter what, that won't work. Let's play together next time. I hurried away. I finally shook him off. Had I found myself a brother or adopted a younger brother instead? I wiped my sweat and thought tiredly. Sure enough, the books currently available made no mention of the connection between Silver Moonstone and Lifestone. That discovery belonged to the protagonist in the novel. Silver Moonstone and Lifestone were made up of similar elements, but their crystal structures differed, making one hard and the other soft, like graphite and diamond. In the novel, Teresa had a talent for alchemy, which was how she discovered this. Silver Moonstone and Lifestone. I should be able to refine them using similar principles, right? And with magic and alchemy in this world, it should be easy enough. Little sis, after you finish reading, come play with your brother. I'm so bored right now. Leon's howling interrupted my train of thought. My eardrums were practically taking critical damage. Just wait until I get my Silver Moonstone. I'm going to leave this house by making money. Answering Leon as I did, I also thought about how, first thing tomorrow morning, I'd already announced my plan to go into the city. I was supposed to go last weekend. It was all that clingy someone's fault. I wanted to go earlier, but it kept getting delayed until now, I said with a smile. Now that you mention it, you did bring it up before. You said you needed to buy supplies for the estate, Bastion recalled. Leon immediately said, Then do you want your brother to go with you? I let out a helpless sigh. These past 2 days, except for when I went to the bathroom, he'd followed me everywhere. We could just teleport back with magic. And we can stop by that candy shop he used to like. Little sister, Leon said happily. Bastion let out a cold laugh. Candy? That's all someone who abandoned his little sister and ran away from home for 10 years can think of. Amen. Go with your brother instead. I'll buy you anything you like. I heard there's a dessert shop there that's very good. Buying that place wouldn't be a problem either. Hearing Bastion's words, I was so shocked my jaw nearly dropped. Is this what rich people are like? Buying the shop instead of the goods? Have you lost your mind, brother? Do you really think she'd like that? I'm talking with Amen, so don't interrupt. Leon and Bastion started bickering again. Amen is going with me. You can stay home like a good boy, or use the time to go back to Moda. Bastion struck first, as if our noble duke has time to be strolling around. Don't you have anything better to do? Leon fired back right away. Looks like you don't know I can balance work and family. Unlike someone who left home for 10 years just to become the master of Moda. The two of them started going at it again. My patience has limits, Leonard, Bastion warned. Want to test which one of us is really being patient? I couldn't get a word into their war at all, so I decided to kill the competition with one sentence. I could just go by myself. The moment they heard that, both of them fell silent. Do you know how dangerous it is out there? My two brothers said in perfect unison, suddenly united. But honestly, I thought the two of them were more dangerous, so I refused both of their offers to accompany me. I also told Leon to clean up the plate he had thrown. Honestly, how old are you, still throwing plates? I thought helplessly. Spending money really is such a joyful thing. Miss, the world doesn't need the sun anymore. Miss, you're the one who shines. Even dressed this simply, you're still so beautiful. Mrs. Features are brighter than my future. The maid started praising me one after another. The rainbow flattery from my little puppies really was colorful. Then one of the maids suddenly said, everything is perfect, but if we just changed one little thing, it would be even better. The other maids looked like they'd been struck by lightning. Are you crazy? Are you blind? Miss is already perfect as she is. Enduring the fierce attacks from the puppies, the maid cleared her throat and said, there's only one thing that still needs improvement. My heart. The puppies immediately chimed in. Oh my gosh, exactly. Me too. I could only stare speechlessly. A chill ran down my spine and goosebumps rose all over me. It felt like my ears had suffered another serious assault. Fine, if you're happy, I said, pressing a hand to my forehead. Bastion made one last attempt and asked, Wouldn't it be better to go together? I still refused. I can't rely on my brothers every single time. And the night captain, Jenny, who escorted me back before, will be traveling with me too. So there's no need to worry, I said cheerfully. All right, I called you over because I wanted to give you something. Bastian pushed a gift box toward me. When I opened it, it was a dagger. Bastian covered the side of his neck and said, if you run into danger, stab them here. Just stab twice and they'll die. The blade is poisoned, so if it's urgent, use it immediately. I stared at him dumbfounded. I'm pretty sure I was only going to the city, not to war. My adorable little sister will come home safely, right? Bastian asked, his eyes sparkling as he looked at me. Yes, I promise, I said. This was really driving me insane. The moment I got into the carriage, Jenny noticed the dagger in my hand and asked what it was. My brother's love is entirely contained in this dagger. Once we reached the shopping district, I decided to buy furniture first. Over the past 5 years, Amelia's room, which had stood empty, had its furniture replaced regularly. But the servants' things hadn't, probably because with the mistress absent, they couldn't freely use the budget. The maids had been using the same beds for over 10 years. That was just too much. Since there was more than enough money anyway, I might as well take this chance to splurge. Before long, Monica found me a very good shop. As expected, Monica really is the best secretary in the world. I praised her. Oh my, honored young lady, what can I do for you? The shop owner, Adolf, hurried over enthusiastically. I want to order 20 beds, not cheap ones. I want to see the best mass-producible beds you have. I stated my requirements. The owner's eyes nearly popped out of his head. He quickly said, please, right this way to the back. I'll take very good care of you. This is our VIP product catalog. There's no need to walk around the store yourself. You can simply choose from the booklet. The owner handed me a book. He really knew how to do business. Nobles probably love this kind of service. I looked through the catalog intently, but I didn't really like this method. Do you have any beds you'd recommend? Something especially durable, I asked. After all, they were for my energetic little puppies. Of course. We have every kind of product here. Let's take a look right now, the owner said, rubbing his hands together. Pointing to a page in the catalog, he introduced one. How about this one made of oak? Elegant and sturdy. The price is 80 gold. Then he introduced several more models. But I felt the prices were rather inflated. Just then, a sheet of paper slipped out of the book. The prices on it were exactly half of what the owner had just quoted. The owner snatched it away at once and nervously tried to cover it up. How'd this get in here? Honestly, no wonder the cover was so fancy. So he was really treating noble customers like suckers. Hold it. Can you explain what that was just now? Were you planning to fleece me? I stopped the owner angrily. This kind of thing was common enough, even in the modern world, but if I actually ran into it in person, I couldn't just let it go. It was time to show him the expression a villain's little sister ought to have. I glared at the owner furiously. Young lady, what happened? Jenny stepped forward and asked. After taking a look, Jenny turned to the owner and threatened him angrily. How dare you deceive the house of Chedley? Only then did the money-blinded owner realize just how unmistakable the signs of the Chedley family were in my rose-colored hair and golden eyes. I'm sorry, I didn't recognize Miss Chedley, the owner said, immediately dropping to his knees to apologize. Too late. Even if I'd just been some young lady from an unknown family, he still had no right to swindle people. I decided to punish him, but I couldn't think of a good punishment. At that moment, Jenny leaned toward me and asked, young lady, shall I cut off his wrist? To dare deceive the young lady of a ducal house, please give the order. As he spoke, Jenny drew his sword. Wait. This really isn't that serious, is it? My eyes widened. I quickly stopped Jenny and said, there's no need. Don't look disappointed. I felt a little helpless. Monica smiled and said, in a case like this, it should be resolved peacefully. I immediately felt reassured. As expected, Monica was calm and collected. And then Monica leaned close to the owner and threatened him in a low voice. Do you still want the shop to remain open? If we wanted to make a tiny store disappear without anyone noticing, that would be nothing to our young lady. By then, you would disappear too, just as neatly and cleanly as magic. So it would be better to do business honestly, wouldn't it? If you'd like to keep this still attached to your neck, Monica said, pointing to her own head. Wasn't this supposed to be the peaceful method? Did it count as peaceful negotiation just because her voice sounded nice? I was starting to break down a little. I was honestly scared of them now, so I'm the last shred of reason left in this ducal house. In the end, instead of negotiating the price or asking for a discount, we got a contract directly, in exchange for not prosecuting at all for fraud. All goods would be sold to the ducal house at half price for the next 20 years. What kind of contract was that? It was basically a slave agreement. I never expected you'd buy beds for the maids, Monica said with a smile. The girls are going to be so happy. Sometimes I notice they've been using the same things for far too long. It's only right to do this much for them. It's a surprise, though, so keep it secret until the things arrive, I said. Then let's head to the next shop. I was full of fighting spirit. Next came the truly fun part, throwing money around. I felt as happy as if I'd won the lottery. Spending money like this was amazing. Monica asked what we should do next. I thought for a moment. There was only that one thing left now. Warm up over. Next, it was time to go after Silver Moonstone. Today's real target, the mineral market that sold Silver Moonstone. It only opened after sunset, and there were still about 2 hours left before business started. In a little while, I'm in the mineral market, I announced to Monica and Jenny. The two of them were shocked. After all, that definitely wasn't the sort of place a noble young lady should go. But I had to go, because what I wanted wasn't just Silver Moonstone. What I wanted was the market itself. I wanted to monopolize it completely. I want to buy Silver Moonstone, and I need your help. After hearing me out, Monica said the ducal house could simply purchase it directly. Naturally, I refused, and I also asked them to keep it secret from my brothers. When I asked again for their help, they agreed. Then, first things first, you two need to change your clothes. The moment they heard that, both of them froze. In a remote corner, a bully squad was being born. Monica protested indignantly. Why does Jenny only have to change clothes, but I have to change my hairstyle and put on makeup too? Because Jenny already looks tall and intimidating. But Monica doesn't. Only this level of effort will leave a strong impression, I explained. Young lady, you're clearly enjoying this, aren't you? Monica muttered under her breath. I pretended not to hear. Finished. Her movements were still a little unnatural, but Monica had been a noble from birth, so there was only so much she could change. This was already pretty good. The appearance is perfect. You just need to change your tone a bit. More sloppy and rude, I instructed. I stopped paying attention to Monica, who looked like she was questioning her entire life, because next to approach us was Jenny's new form. He looked exactly like a guild member. A perfect disguise. Today, I deliberately worn a simple dress for the disguise too. Otherwise, if people realized I was a noble lady, I'd definitely be stopped at the entrance. Now to assign roles. I'm the guild leader. The two of you are guild members, I explained to Monica and Jenny. I once saw one when I was a mercenary, but we only passed by each other, so I wasn't sure whether I could imitate one well. Monica and Jenny both looked worried, but I wasn't about to back down. I patted them both on the shoulders and said, "It's okay. You can do it. I believe in you. Let's do our best together." I shouted, but when we got to the mineral market, it wasn't just not bustling. It was practically empty. As far as I knew, the mineral market didn't have closing days. And there were guards outside too. Looks like we'll have to find the person in charge. It'd be nice if there were signs. Jenny said, if only there were. But this was the guild's stronghold. Why would there be signs? I thought in despair. At that moment, Monica reminded me there was someone up ahead. I immediately rushed over and grabbed the man. Clearing my throat, I said, I'm here to buy minerals. Why is the market so deserted today? Yes, it's unusually quiet today, the man said. Quiet didn't even begin to cover it, though. There wasn't a single soul in sight. I was speechless. You all look like a new guild. If there's somewhere you want to go, I can take you there, the man offered. Since none of us knew the layout well, having someone guide us would naturally be a big help, so we asked him to show us the way. After exchanging a few words, I got the feeling he might be a noble too. That was rather uncommon. After all, most people in the guild were commoners or illegal drifters. The man stopped and said, "We're here. Follow this road, and it leads straight to the Opera Merchant Guild. You'll find it soon enough." Naturally, I thanked him again and again. But it was strange. He'd been smiling this whole time. It reminded me of Bastion. Our eldest brother loved smiling too, though in his case, maybe a little too much. By the way, which guild do you belong to? We might be able to help you sometime later. I stopped the man just as he was about to leave and asked. The man shook his head. It's nothing. Just as the guild leader said, it's only simple kindness. Then he walked off into the darkness. At that moment, Jenny patted my shoulder and pointed somewhere. Guild leader. Look over there. I could hardly believe my eyes. What was this? A flashy, multicolored signboard. Lights in every possible color. Why did this feel so shady? Why would anyone put a sparkling sign like that at a mineral market like some gaudy lighting fixture. I was at a loss for words. The novel's author never mentioned this. Why was this author always stuffing in weird settings only they knew about like some kind of pervert? I clenched my fists, wishing I could travel back and punch them. But since we were already here, let's go in, I said. I knocked several times, but no one answered, so I pushed the door open and went in. The inside was completely empty. Had everyone in the market really gone on strike together? Then suddenly the office chair spun around. "Welcome," someone sitting in it said with a smile. "I'm the head of the Opera Merchant Guild. You found your way here quite smoothly," the smiling manager said. "A very handsome person brought me here," I answered. The manager clicked his tongue lightly and muttered something under his breath that I couldn't hear clearly. I should have made him uglier. Then he smiled again and said, "Please sit. Do you like lavender tea?" After I replied that I did, a cup of tea appeared directly on the table. The manager actually knew magic. More surprising still, the tea unexpectedly suited my taste perfectly. It had honey in it. "Honey isn't usually put in sweet lavender tea," I said. "Cute," the manager said in what he clearly thought was an extremely quiet whisper. The awkward part was that I heard it, and it scared me half to death. The manager wasn't my brother's. There was no way he'd make such a shameful little sound just because he thought I was cute. I had to have misheard. Let me introduce myself properly. My name is Amelia Chedley. I'm the youngest of the Chedley family, I said seriously. Wow, what an unexpected development. The manager said like a machine, word by word. I continued stating my objective. "I heard the Opera Merchant Guild has monopolized Silver Moonstone. I came here in order to purchase Silver Moonstone. I hope you will transfer that monopoly to us. Of course, I'm not asking you to simply hand it over. If you look at these materials, you'll be able to see my sincerity." I spoke fluently and at length. But before I could even finish what I'd prepared, the manager replied cleanly, "Sure." "What?" I completely froze. I said, "Sure." The manager repeated. Silence filled the office. I could hardly believe what I had just heard. "Why?" I asked warily. "There's no such thing as a free lunch. This feels suspicious. Even if Silver Moonstone doesn't have many uses right now, it's still undoubtedly a valuable mineral. And because the amount mined is small, it could even be considered a rare mineral. Most importantly, a monopoly over a mineral gives enormous market leverage. So why was he agreeing so easily? Is there a problem?" The manager asked with a smile. I asked in disbelief, "Are you really giving it to me?" The manager only replied calmly, "Didn't you ask for it? Are you perhaps trying to trick me? If something this huge falls into your lap for free, it usually just kills you. This was way too easy. How many people in the Empire would dare deceive someone from the Chedley family? Actually, Silver Moonstone doesn't have that many uses. We were already troubled over what to do with it," the manager said with a smile. "If receiving it unconditionally makes you uneasy." The manager tapped the table as he spoke. I let out a long breath. So there really was a condition after all. "Then please do 3 cute poses," the manager said with a smile like a complete degenerate. "What?" I stared at him with a dark expression. The manager acted cute and made a little cat pose. "That is the condition for giving you the otherwise useless Silver Moonstone. Looking at the sign outside, you should already know I like cute things." "What? That counted as cute?" Thinking of that gaudy multicolored sign outside, I felt a deep concern for the manager's sense of aesthetics. "So you're unwilling?" The manager pressed. I clenched my teeth. Pride or Silver Moonstone? Obviously Silver Moonstone. If I just closed my eyes and acted cute, Silver Moonstone would come flying right into my hands. "Believe in yourself. You can do this." I did the 3 poses at lightning speed. To a degree I never wanted to remember for the rest of my life. It was horrifying. Even more horrifying was the silence that followed in the office. There was nothing worse than the air suddenly going still. "Please, somebody say something. Don't leave me hanging in this embarrassment." The manager broke the silence. Covering his mouth with tears in his eyes, he gave me a thumbs up. "Miss Chedley, let's sign the contract." Even after getting the contract, I still found it hard to believe. A monopoly on Silver Moonstone, transferred so unconditionally. It made me look like the bandit here. This contract really looked like bandit terms. Does your merchant guild truly have no regrets? For example, are you trying to use this chance to destroy yourselves completely? I asked vaguely. The manager smiled and denied every wild suspicion in my head. "I was simply deeply moved by Miss Chedley's cuteness," the manager said, smiling like a pervert again. Was he serious? I was honestly at a loss. Just as I was about to sign, the manager asked, "Are you sure you don't want to include any other ores in the contract too?" I shook my head repeatedly. Was he joking? Was this man trying to bankrupt the merchant guild? Even I, an outsider, was starting to worry for them. Right, on the surface, this is a transaction with a guild. It would be better if you used an alias, the manager reminded me. Then what kind of alias should I pick? Maybe Sophie? But would anyone dealing with guilds really use such an ordinary name? Just as I was struggling over it, the manager said he could help me think of one. I thanked him in delight. The result was the manager happily clenching his fists and starting to rattle off nonsense. Sweetie baby, cute little bean, or little cutie. When he finished, the manager looked at me expectantly. Naturally, I shattered those expectations. I picked up the pen and signed the name Sophie. The version of me who had expected anything good from him just now was an idiot. Still, I had to admit, the manager like this felt strangely familiar, like a puppy wagging its tail. I felt like I'd seen that somewhere before. Leon? I stared blankly at the manager. He looked back at me in confusion. I awkwardly explained that his vibe was a lot like my second brother's. The manager didn't seem to mind and instead asked, "It seems you're very close with your brothers?" I scratched my head and explained I was lost and away from home for a very long time, so they worry about me a lot, saying that made me feel terribly guilty. But I couldn't exactly tell other people that, actually, our family had just raised two lunatics. The manager immediately asked with concern, "Did you suffer a lot?" I thought about it. Honestly, my life outside hadn't been that bad. I had good friends and didn't suffer much. How optimistic. Your brothers must be very proud of you, the manager said, blinking at me. Yes, my second brother especially is very fond of me. That's why I suddenly thought of him. I sighed helplessly, but my heart felt warm. The moment I finished speaking, I heard the manager mutter something that sounded like "lucky bastard." But when I asked about it, he said he'd only been remarking on how good the relationship between my siblings was. I couldn't help rubbing my ears. I've been hearing muttering noises this whole time. Had spending so much time lately with those two lunatics made me strange too? Even after the contract was sealed, I still found it hard to believe. Someone had really stamped their seal on such a one-sided contract that disadvantaged themselves. A guild leader's seal was a one-of-a-kind mark used to verify a contract. If either side broke the agreement after both had affixed their seals, they would be dragged before a guild tribunal. Unlike imperial law, guild trials were said to be bloody affairs. Rumor even had it that one guild leader who lost his seal was killed by his own guild members. So is it really okay for him to be smiling this brightly right now? What a creepy person. Better get out of here fast. Refusing the manager's suggestion of another cup of tea, I called for Jenny and Monica to leave. At that moment, the manager stopped me. The way out is complicated, so I made marks on the floor for you. Just follow them. Only then did I remember that, since I'd had no map on the way in, someone had led me here. I thought the manager was just a strange man, but unexpectedly, he was actually so thoughtful. I immediately apologized, then pushed the door open and left. Once outside, I let out a long breath. The contents of the contract were strange, but still, a major life problem had been solved so easily. Right? The manager said there were marks on the floor. I lowered my head. Then the obvious marks enter my sight. Thoughtful my ass. He really was insane. Meanwhile, the manager collapsed onto the sofa and let out a relieved sigh. That was close. She almost noticed. Then he snapped his fingers, dispelling the magical disguise, and the person revealed was none other than my second brother, Leonard. At that moment, hurried footsteps sounded. The man in black who had helped me in the venue shoved open the door, panting, and snarled through gritted teeth, "Leonard. Ah, brother, you're here," my second brother called out with a grin. The man in black grabbed Leon by the throat and said viciously, "You've finally gone insane." Leon wasn't flustered in the least and defended himself. "Didn't I guide our little sister just fine? So why are you still saying that about me?" The man in black yanked off his hood and pointed furiously at his eyebrows. "You call this fine? Explain to me why my eyebrows ended up like this while you stand there acting perfectly calm." My second brother burst out laughing. "It couldn't be helped. Didn't you ask to look more ordinary?" Leon explained, trying not to laugh, then snapped his fingers and dispelled the disguise on the man in black. The one revealed was none other than my eldest brother, Bastian, still utterly unafraid of death. Leon continued taking credit. "The only reason you were able to guide our sister was because I changed your face and voice. I even cleared out everyone here." Bastian shot back darkly. "I could have cleared them out too." Leon sneered. "Clear them out, my foot. You'd have killed them, more like." Bastian trembled with rage, but couldn't actually refute that, and could only glare at Leon's smug face. Leon handed the contract to Bastian. The contract signed. The seal's on it. No takebacks now. Bastion took it with a cold snort. Then, grudgingly, he praised him. You did well enough. And the reason these two blood brothers, normally at each other's throats, had joined forces was naturally to ensure that before their fragile, adorable, precious, tiny little treasure Amelia ran into danger, the market would be completely cleared. At the same time, to make sure I safely obtained the Silver Moonstone, the two of them had gone to great lengths. To help my secret plan succeed, they had also prepared thorough disguises. Whatever our Amelia wants to do, let her do it. Even if that means hiding it from her brothers will still play along with her. That was the one and only point on which the two brothers agreed. So Leon tossed several hundred guild members into some corner of his subspace, while Bastion used the skills of his highly trained assassins to capture the original manager. And now, back to the present. Leon smiled and said to the original manager, I signed a contract on your behalf, mister. Since the seal's already on it, we can't let it become invalid now, can we? Leon held down the violently struggling manager while smiling and speaking words that were, in fact, threats. Of course you'll feel wronged, but that's just how life is. It would be best if you fulfill the contract honestly. If you have other plans, well, you should prepare yourself. What about the vanished guild members? Bastion asked coldly. They'll return when the sun rises, Leon said with a smile. Then I'll leave this uncle to you, Leon said cheerfully in farewell, then closed the warehouse door. That day, desperate screams rang out from the mineral market warehouse, and the mineral market set a new record for the largest single transaction since opening. Back home, I looked the contract over again and again. The guild seal on it was absolutely real. Though I had no idea why the process had been so bizarre, the result was good. Everything was proceeding according to plan. Silver Moonstone was in my hands now. I patted my cheeks. I just smiled like a villain. I must have been corrupted by my villainous brothers. Speaking of my brothers, what should I do about the gifts I bought them? I'd stayed at the mineral market too long, so taking them over now felt a little late. I looked up at the clock. That workaholic probably still wasn't asleep. Then I'd go see my eldest brother first. Just as I arrived outside his office, I ran into the butler and learned that my eldest brother was indeed still working. He worked like this from morning till night. Incredible. He was someone us lazy fish couldn't even look straight at. Brother, do you have a moment right now? If you're busy, I can come back later. I hesitated as I interrupted my brother while he was working. Bastion removed his glasses and said, How could this be an interruption? I'm finished. Thinking of how I'd spent the day out shopping while he'd worked all day long like this. And with so many documents piled up, I felt a little guilty. Take a break. When I saw Bastion pick up his pen again, I stopped him. I can always make time for you. Just say what you came to say. It's late. Did something happen? Bastion asked, looking at me gently. I handed over the gift. I wanted to give this to you. Bastion took it with surprise. Is this for me? Why did you buy me a gift? Because you gave me one too, I explained. Even if his gift had been a murder weapon. I had Bastion open the gift. His eyes widened slightly. Inside the box was a pair of cufflinks in a color very similar to his eyes. Oomph. I couldn't help feeling proud. My taste was as good as ever. I picked something I thought looked nice, but I hope you like it too, brother. Before I could even finish speaking, Bastion had already changed into the cufflinks. Looking at his satisfied expression, I gave a smug little hum. Well, touched, aren't you? I gladly accepted Bastion's thanks. This gift also served as a way to make up for something. After all, I had secretly gone to the mineral market, even if my two brothers knew nothing about it. Sneaking around like that still pricked at my conscience. But little sister still had to secure her own future. After giving him the gift, I said goodbye to Bastion and declined his offer to walk me back. Eldest brother and second brother really were different. If it had been my second brother, he definitely would have clung to me and insisted on escorting me back. That's why I chose to give eldest brother his gift first. So now it was time to go find second brother. Just as I was about to leave, my second brother appeared, hanging upside down right in front of me. It scared me half to death. Clutching my pounding heart resentfully, I asked why. Why can't you ever just appear like a normal person? I looked at my second brother with tears in my eyes. Our youngest looks cute even when she's startled, Leon said, swaying upside down. I rejected his barrage of compliments and said seriously, Brother Leon, please act normal at home. Don't keep popping up like a ghost. Leon dropped down with a smack and obediently agreed, but I knew he was only agreeing with his mouth. Since I'd run into him anyway, I handed him the gift directly. What's this? Leon asked in surprise. It's a gift. Leon instantly began glowing with delight. A gift really for your brother? A gift our youngest personally picked out for a brother? I couldn't withstand it and nodded again and again. When he saw what was inside the box, Leon's eyes widened. It was a brooch. My second brother liked flashy things, and they happened to suit his handsome face perfectly. As expected, the best accessory was always good looks. Since I didn't know what you liked, I bought something I thought suited you, I explained with a smile. I never expected Leon's eyes to grow misty. Our youngest has grown up enough to give gifts to her brother now. Leon stroked the gift, reluctant to let go. Youngest, I've decided something, Leon suddenly declared. I looked at him in confusion. I had no idea what he decided, but I had a bad feeling. Sure enough, the next second Leon said, I'm going to pass this down as a family heirloom. I'll put it in a glass vault and cast preservation magic on it for 1,000 years. I'll pass down the gift our youngest gave her brother forever. I listened to his words with a grave expression, then rejected his suggestion with equal seriousness. I cut off his fantasies and said, you could just wear it regularly. If I let him keep going, he really would do something that's stupid. By the way, you seem pretty energetic. Were you home all day today? I suddenly remembered how down he'd looked before I went shopping. Leon's heart skipped a beat. Then he stammered, well, I did some cleaning today. Cleaning? The second son of a ducal family personally cleaning? Weren't there servants? Listening to Leon's explanation, I thought in confusion. Was this a habit he'd picked up at Moda? No, wait. Given our second brother's personality, he'd probably just order other mages to do it. That left only one possibility. I placed a hand on Leon's shoulder. Brother, you really are unbelievably bored, aren't you? How little do you have to do to start cleaning in person? I comfortingly patted his shoulder. Thinking about it carefully, he had run away from Modu just to see me. Lately, I really hadn't been paying enough attention to him. Realizing that, I said to Leon, next time, let's go out together, brother. Leon lit up so happily it was like I could see a tail wagging behind him. Early the next morning, I woke up with great difficulty to the maids calling. Mississippi Miss, are you an angel? There must be scars on your back, miss. They're the traces left by your wings. Even if one day you flew away, I wouldn't be surprised. The bed was so soft, I thought I was lying on a cloud. I thought Miss had brought me to heaven. I listened haggardly as the maids chattered over one another. Thank goodness Monica appeared and drove off the noisy little puppies. They really were good at putting on little skits. But I was very happy everyone liked my gift so much. Monica handed me an account book and said, the ladies asked me to pass along their thanks for the handkerchiefs. The head chef said to look forward to your next meal. Your thoughtfulness was properly conveyed to everyone, miss. Flipping through the ledger, I asked at one entry, are these all the expenses from that day in the city? Monica nodded. You can look it over. What shocked me was that I thought I'd spent a lot of money, but it had only been half of what I brought. The financial power of a ducal house really was astonishing. I put on my outer robe and left my room with Monica, then suddenly remembered the silver moonstone that concerned my own future so deeply. Monica immediately answered. We received a reply this morning. Although the amount mined varies from month to month, unless there are unusual changes, it's generally around 1 ton. Monica reported. The mined amount really wasn't as plentiful as I'd imagined. The supply for the entire empire was only 1 ton. Once compressed into life stones, the volume would become even smaller. I recalled the refining process for life stones from a novel. The Merchant Guild says they're searching for a new mining site, but opening a new mine is by no means easy. The production issue is still very serious. I had Monica help me write a reply conveying my thanks, while I continued carefully reviewing the financial report. How much money could this amount of mining save up in a month? Tears of emotion welled at the corners of my mouth. Suddenly, I was overwhelmed by happiness. A life drowned in gold really was blissful. Who said money can't buy happiness? As long as I can live with money, that's enough happiness for me. Looking at it this way, I could understand Jella, my good friend who sold me out. 6,000 gold really was an enormous sum. How long would it take a commoner to earn that much? Come to think of it, maybe I should write Jella a letter. Even though I was sold off by Jella, her original intentions weren't bad. Yes, I should write to her. Monica, please send this letter to Jella in the eastern town of Purin. Knowing Jella's personality, I should get a reply within 2 days. I was looking forward to another peaceful day. Aside from Leon jumping in through the window at noon. Just then there was a knock at the door. Miss, may I come in? It was the maid, Paige. Hearing such a cheerful voice, I knew Paige had won the lottery this time. They had to draw lots every time they came to see me. Didn't they find that troublesome? Paige came in with a radiant smile. Your letter has arrived. What? Already? I only sent the letter to Jella this morning, and a reply had already come by the afternoon. Even with magic, it should take at least half a day. Jella really was fast, as expected of someone so impatient. Is it from the east? Hearing my question, Paige shook her head and said, no, it came from the royal palace. The palace? I was stunned. It really was the emblem of the Rahadan royal family. What business could the royal family have with me? The moment I opened the letter, a rich floral fragrance wafted out. Even on a small sheet of paper like this, they used such expensive magic, as expected of royalty. As for the contents, it was all stale cliches like everyone at home is well, and how has the weather been lately? Couldn't they write something more exciting? Wait, was I seeing things? It actually said this. Therefore, Amelia is to enter the palace as a queen candidate as soon as possible. What kind of joke was this? What on earth was a queen candidate? Why was I involved in something like that? The prince of the Rahadan Empire, the male lead of this novel, inherited the throne immediately after the late emperor's death. At the same time, this emperor was a complete workaholic. During the 8 years of his reign, at age 29, let alone a queen, he hadn't even had a lover. So the ministers hounded him every single day. Unable to endure it any longer, the emperor announced that he would select a queen. So all the distinguished noble families put forward elegant young women as queen candidates. Only one house did not, the ducal house of Chedley. At the time, Amelia was missing, and my brothers weren't the sort to insist on this kind of thing. Besides, candidate registration had ended long ago, back when I was still in that eastern village washing clothes. So the origin and intent of this letter were both extremely strange. Paige, was this letter only delivered to me? Another one was sent to the main residence too. Paige answered when I asked. Then she looked worried and asked me, is it bad news? Just as I was about to answer, my eldest brother suddenly shoved open my door. One look at the letter crumpled in his hand told me that, sure enough, he'd rushed over the moment he received it. Amel, give me the letter. My eldest brother wore a terrifyingly pleasant smile. Yikes, that was scary. I obediently handed over the letter. The moment he took it, he tore it to pieces. Waves of floral fragrance drifted out with the scraps. My eldest brother irritably brushed off his hands and ground out through clenched teeth, that bastard has gone mad. I was so shocked I almost stopped breathing. Was he openly cursing the emperor? Thank goodness he was doing it here. If he talked like that outside, he'd be jailed for insulting the royal family. I stuck a glance at Paige. She already looked scared stiff. I had to calm my eldest brother down. I was just about to speak when he called my name first. I waved a hand. You first. My brother stood there with one hand on his waist, looking at me helplessly. Just pretend you never received this letter. You don't need to care about it. Even though he said that, I couldn't help feeling worried. Seeing my unease, he smiled and said, it's fine. I know what to do. But he clearly had no idea how frightening his expression looked. Was our eldest really okay? I was afraid that if I didn't agree with him, he might suddenly lose it and storm into the imperial palace. Just then, Paige called hesitantly from the side, Master. Mississippi. My eldest brother turned and asked, what is it? Paige lifted her apron and reached into a pocket. A whole stack of identical letters unfolded in her hands. Paige said awkwardly, the messenger said the first letter would definitely be torn up. So besides that one, there are 23 more. I no longer dared look at my eldest brother's face. That damn bastard, he ground out through clenched teeth. Please calm down. I immediately rushed to stop him. And so the chaotic night passed. The busy morning had only just begun. Early the next morning, I rode in a carriage with my eldest brother toward the imperial palace. The emperor, Yahello, was the male lead of the novel and also Bastion's childhood friend. In the original story, he was described as an absolutely ideal man. He looked gentle, but when it came to competing with others, he absolutely never backed down. As emperor, he also had a strong sense of responsibility. Most importantly, for the heroine, Teresa, he could leap naked into a sea of fire. In short, in the novel's description, he was the perfect male lead. Though considering everything I'd experienced so far, the novel couldn't really be trusted completely. Ever since seeing that eye-searing lighting at the mineral market, I'd stopped trusting the original text all that much. And after sending 30 identical letters to the ducal house, he didn't seem like a normal person either. Come to think of it, did normal people even exist in this world? I secretly raised my eyes and looked at my eldest brother sitting opposite me. He looked really angry. It felt like dark energy was practically rising off him. "Brother, are you okay?" I asked in concern. My eldest brother forced a smile and said, "Of course. Going out with our Amelia makes me happier than anything." Looking at his listless expression, I silently turned my head away. Better to just sit quietly. At last, we arrived at the palace. Even through the carriage window, I could already feel its grandeur. It was incredible, dazzling. How much money had this cost to build? Even though I wanted to slip away quietly, I had to endure it for the sake of the ducal house's dignity. "Amel, watch your step," my eldest brother said gently, his face glowing. I really had to admit it. Our eldest brother's face was no joke. But sadly, the gods were fair. Though they gave him a handsome face, they matched it with a terrible personality. So this is what the Imperial Palace looks like. Just as I was marveling, my eldest brother patted my head and said, "You used to come here often when you were little. Father used to bring you here all the time." I turned to look at him. He seemed like he wanted to say something more. After a long silence, my eldest brother called my name gently. I looked at him in confusion. He was calling me so softly. What was he trying to say? My brother touched my head and smoothed my hair into place. Then, in a bright voice, he said, "You remember what I told you about vital points, right? If anything dangerous happens, stab them. I'll clean up the aftermath." My brain short-circuited so hard it practically sparked. I laughed awkwardly and changed the subject. "What a joke. Please don't use the same expression lovers use to confess their feelings when you're talking about killing someone." Just then, a savior appeared. It was Director Pero, who had come to welcome us. Talk about perfect timing. Following Pero to the Sun Palace where the Emperor lived, I was once again struck by how extravagant the imperial family was. And the fact that we were being taken straight to the Emperor's residence made me realize once more just how close their relationship really was. Pero pushed the door open for us, and I immediately saw that the male lead was pretty handsome. As expected of the male lead, I bowed to him, inwardly thinking that at last, a normal person had finally appeared when the male lead said, "Welcome, Sophie," and my future brother-in-law as well. My whole body stiffened, and then I felt the dark aura radiating from my older brother beside me. "So I had actually expected something from you? Turns out you're not normal either." This male lead, "This world really is just one giant gathering of lunatics, isn't it? Future brother-in-law, your majesty certainly likes to joke," my brother said through gritted teeth, seething. My brother was murderous again. I was used to that by now, but the other person's attitude was way too strange too. The Emperor cheerfully said to my brother, "You're full of energy today as well." I was honestly amazed. The Emperor was clearly enjoying this. Then again, only someone mentally abnormal would remember to send 30 letters. Birds of a feather really do flock together. The old saying was right. The Emperor said with a grin, "Sit down first." I helped my trembling with rage brother over to the sofa. After that, the Emperor leisurely lifted his tea and took a sip. My brother stared at him fixedly while I looked around, not knowing what I was supposed to do. My brother broke the silence. "What exactly are you trying to pull, your majesty?" The moment I heard that, I froze. "You sent something very interesting to my house." He heavily emphasized the words "my house." I was panicking beside him. Could he really be this openly sarcastic? The Emperor said without the slightest concern, "So you received my letter. I even perfumed it with floral fragrance before sending it. It was my first time writing a marriage proposal. I was very excited, huh?" Meanwhile, my brother only stared darkly at the beaming Emperor. Then he cut off the Emperor, who looked ready to launch into a long speech. "Your Majesty, if you lose your weapon, you should start preparing for your coffin." By this point, I was so shocked I was used to it. I even wanted to make a snarky comment. My brother really had a refined way of telling someone to die. Rather than trying to understand the two of them, I might as well count the wallpaper patterns. My thoughts completely drifted off. I stared at the glittering ornament in the distance and fell into deep contemplation. Was that real gold? Maybe I should secretly scrape at it later. Meanwhile, my brother was still arguing. "Sophie will not participate in the queen selection. My little sister doesn't want to marry." "What a pity," the Emperor said with a sigh. My brother pressed on. "Before writing that letter, you should have first asked the doctor about my sister's condition." "But I personally wrote the letter," the Emperor protested. "And who asked you to do something so pointless and unwelcome?" My brother shot back, giving him no face at all. As I watched the show, I couldn't help thinking that my brother had really improved. I thought he would say, I won't hand over our child to you." The male lead burst out laughing and raised his hands in surrender. "If I keep joking, you really will hit me. I apologize for the sudden letter to the ducal house. I missed you all, so I played a little joke. Please forgive me. Though the queen's selection is underway, no matter what, I would never marry Sophie. She's like a little sister to me," the emperor said with a smile. I was speechless. So for the sake of a joke, this emperor had sent a full 30 letters stamped with the imperial seal? The emperor sighed dramatically. I heard Sophie had returned to the capital, yet my dear friend didn't write to me at all. Wasn't I allowed to at least see her? You know, as the head of the imperial household, I even skipped the procedures for your sake, and yet I didn't get so much as a thank you. My friend is terribly rude, isn't he? Well, no matter. It's enough that you came to see me now. Sophie has grown so much. Since the subject had shifted to me, I immediately lowered my head and thanked the emperor for his concern. The emperor paused. I heard you lost your memory. So it's true. Then he added seriously, "No wonder you didn't throw yourself into my arms like you used to when you saw me." I stared at him wide-eyed. He looked so serious that I honestly couldn't tell whether he was telling the truth or lying. I secretly glanced at my brother. In the original novel, it only said that Bastian and Elio were childhood friends. Could Sophie have been close to him too? But I didn't remember the original novel ever mentioning that. Sophie never did such a thing. Not even once, Bastian said coldly. The emperor laughed cheerfully. So you didn't fall for it. I instantly felt exasperated. So he really had just been spouting nonsense. At this point, it was obvious. Elio was a shameless, black-bellied type. How had he ended up with this bright on the outside, pitch black on the inside character setting? I truly could no longer trust the original story at all. Come to think of it, it's been 8 years since I last saw Sophie, hasn't it? The emperor said conversationally. Yes, this is the first time since the coronation. In my memory, Sophie was only this tall, he said, gesturing. That little child has become such a lady. I bent slightly and thanked him for the compliment. Then the emperor smiled gently at me and said, "Now you really can participate in the queen's selection." That one sentence successfully enraged my brother all over again. "Your Majesty," he ground out. The emperor hurriedly waved it off as another joke. Honestly, didn't the emperor just enjoy seeing Bastian get mad? Since earlier, every time Bastian's expression cracked, Elio had looked especially delighted. Then Elio rubbed his neck and teased. If I could make the Chedley family part of the imperial in-laws, I'd feel much more secure. But I'm afraid that before the wedding even takes place, my life would already end at my friend's hands. Hearing that, Bastian said darkly, "I'm glad you're aware of that." I was dumbfounded beside them. Was it really okay to say things that could get someone beheaded so directly? The emperor obviously didn't care at all. He set down his teacup and finally got to the point. The emperor said seriously, "I called you here today because you want to contact the Western witches." Bastian pressed a hand to his forehead. "Your Majesty, if you had started with that, I would have come immediately." The emperor teased. "What are you talking about? Then only you would have come. I couldn't miss the chance to see my darling again after 8 years. Bastian retorted, "Your Majesty, I've told you more than once. Sophie is my darling. My darling is over there." I followed the direction of Bastian's finger. It was actually Director Pero. "Wait, Director, why are you blushing over a teapot?" "I heard from the doctors. With the magic currently available, recovering her memories will be difficult." "Is that so?" The emperor looked toward my brother. Leon confirmed it. "The energy is too complicated to touch easily." "Oh my, so your second brother has returned." The moment he said that, Bastian seemed to remember his foolish second brother and unwillingly admitted, "He came back not long ago." "I see. Then your house must be in utter chaos," the emperor said, suppressing a laugh. He cleared his throat and regained his serious expression. "If it's something even magic can barely fix, then yes, it really may require a witch. The Western witches can use mysterious powers." "Yes, so we hope to receive permission," Bastian replied just as seriously. "Granting permission isn't difficult, but going there in person is very dangerous." "Are you sure about this?" Hearing the emperor's concern, I remembered the description from the original book. Though the Western continent was outwardly a neutral zone, that was only because no one could occupy it. Anyone who rashly entered that place died without exception. Hundreds of years ago, a small country had attempted to conquer it, but after their entire army was wiped out, no one ever set their sights on it again. But unfortunately, I still have matters to handle in the capital, so I can't go in person. The emperor seemed to come to a decision. He clapped his hands. "I can give you a magical dispatch order. Your second brother should take action too, right?" Sending magical dispatches consumed enormous magical power. Only highly skilled magicians could use it stably. But our second brother could do it. At times like this, I really felt the Chedley ducal house was incredible. But I have one condition, the Emperor said. Take this opportunity to list Sophie as a queen candidate. What do you think? He brought up again. Bastion chose to simply draw his sword. No, big brother, this is rebellion. This is treason. I spat out my tea. In an instant, all the guards hidden in the shadows appeared and aimed all kinds of weapons at my brother. Yet at that exact moment, the Emperor burst out laughing again. I am joking. Dear God, someone save me. I really couldn't take this pack of lunatics. Stand down, the Emperor said to the guards, then to Bastion. Once Bastion sheathed his sword, the guards also put away their weapons. Then they bowed to Bastion. You're quick as ever, Bastion praised. Only I was left speechless after the fright. So you all knew each other? The shadow guards have gotten stronger, Bastion said approvingly. Their reactions were even faster than last time. The Emperor followed up with, the fact that you approve means they really are doing well. Good grief, so I was the only country bumpkin here. Clearly, this wasn't the first or second time something like this had happened. No matter what, we will not participate in the queen selection, Bastion stated firmly. I know, but the way you get angry is just too amusing, the Emperor said darkly with a chuckle. You smile even when old nobles insult you, but the second Sophie is involved, your face goes cold. It's so entertaining. But I really do have one condition, the Emperor said again. At the upcoming Spring Founding Festival, let Sophie be the domina. That is my condition. What do you say? My little head filled with question marks. Was he joking? Me, the domina? In the imperial family, grand events were held every spring and autumn. Spring was the founding commemoration, and autumn was the harvest commemoration. Just like in countries that worship the goddess, major events were always accompanied by religious ceremonies. The domina was the woman who stood at the very front during the ceremony. Usually, it was the emperor's consort, a princess, or another high-ranking woman of the imperial family. The problem was that there were no women in the imperial family right now. The emperor's mother had passed away a few years ago, and the emperor, an only son, didn't even have a lover. Imperial law stated that the emperor could designate the domina. In the original story, the heroine Teresa became the domina. So why was he asking me now? Why me? I muttered to myself as I thought. Then I suddenly realized I was still standing before the emperor and quickly covered my mouth. The emperor smiled. Does it feel abrupt to Sophie? You really are exactly like a little sister-in-law. Right now, Sophie is the noblest woman in my empire. Just as I was about to get drawn into the emperor's logic, Bastion said coldly, Your Majesty, Sophie has not even had her debut ball yet. The emperor sighed. I see. That is indeed a problem. She's already 21. Sophie's 16th birthday was a long time ago. Since she has now safely returned, she ought to have her own debut ball. The emperor's words gave me one piece of information. So Sophie had only been 16 when she disappeared. Among Rahadan nobles, only after turning 16 could one hold a debut ball. The age of adulthood in the empire was 18. Holding a debut at 21 really was quite late. Bastion was still arguing his case. Leaving the debut ball aside for the moment, the domina doesn't necessarily have to be Sophie, does she? That's true, the emperor replied, but there is no reason it shouldn't be Sophie either. I understand your desire to protect your sister, but you can't shield her forever. I could more or less understand what my brother was thinking. He was probably worried that once I entered society, I'd start receiving proposals. Just thinking of that pile of proposal letters crushed to powder made me dizzy. At this year's Founding Festival Ball, we can hold Sophie's debut, and serving as domina would also be good experience for her, wouldn't it? The emperor said with a smile. But in reality, I was already on the verge of tears. Ever since childhood, I had avoided attention. I certainly didn't want to become the star of the Founding Festival. That is my condition. What do you say? The emperor asked again. Of course, if you refuse, I won't permit the magical transmission, the emperor kindly reminded us. My brother looked at me. What do you think? If you dislike it, just say so. I looked back at him. I knew that no matter what I decided, Bastion would respect my opinion. But Bastion was also the kind of person who would find some other way to contact the witches of Cullies, even if the emperor refused. But if he did that, the Chedley family would instantly become serious criminals. Contacting the Western continent without official permission from the state was a grave offense. As long as I was alive and breathing, I couldn't let him fall into that kind of danger. Fine. I'll be the domina. I let out a sigh. Excellent, the Emperor said happily. In truth, I wasn't considering anyone else. I'll have everything Sophie needs to prepare as Dominus sent to the ducal residence. Also, as for the letter to the Western witches, it can be sent whenever you wish. Bastian accepted with great reluctance, and the Emperor immediately took the chance to smooth things over. No, I should be the one thanking you. You've solved my Domina problem. Shall we have lunch together? The Emperor invited us, but Bastian and I both shook our heads. No need. We'll eat at home. Sitting in the carriage on the way back, Bastian looked unhappy. I was unsettled too. Becoming Domina had been beyond anything I expected, but it seemed that the debut ball was what was giving my brother an even bigger headache. But then again, my brother was the kind of man who would hand me a knife in the middle of a bustling street. So why was this bothering him so much? Sophie, my brother suddenly said. I immediately came back to my senses and looked at him. He said gloomily, I'll assign you guards against assassination at once. My mood instantly plummeted. Looks like things really are bad. A few months later, Western Continent. The magic circle had brought the 38th letter of the month. The white-haired which irritably picked up the letter and muttered, Again? Is this person stupid or just naturally this excessive? 500 years ago, the 5 continents signed a peace treaty and established magic circles for correspondence. But in reality, only 2 letters had arrived in the past 300 years. Once during the plague crisis that nearly destroyed the northern continent, and once during the devastating war on the eastern continent. So normally, a letter from another continent meant something truly urgent had happened. But starting last month, 1 rose-scented letter had arrived every day. There are now 38 of them. I'm sick of roses just looking at them. The white-haired which grumbled, trying angrily to tear the letter apart. But the thing was tougher than a shoe's sole. The white-haired which struggled for a long time, but the letter didn't budge at all. What irritating magic did they put on this damn thing? Her hands shook with anger. In the end, she gave up, sighed, and tossed the letter together with all its brothers and sisters. If not for the peace treaty, I'd have overturned everything by now, the white-haired which said bitterly. 38 days earlier, when the first letter had arrived, the white-haired which had heard the attendant's report from a distance. She'd actually been a little expectant. What kind of earth-shaking news would this continent, which hadn't remembered her for 150 years, bring? Humans always waited until the last moment. They only came looking for her when they were in trouble. Surely it was some king from one of those nations whining over trivial nonsense again. But when she took the letter into her hands, she sensed something was off. A letter from Duke Chedley? There's no royal seal, and the envelope doesn't look like it came through an official route. So it's a legal correspondence. That instantly piqued the white-haired witch's interest. Is he asking for my help to stage a rebellion? Or conquer the continent? Whatever it is, I hope it's worth waking the Lord for. What is this? Recovering a younger sister's memories? If it were about conquering the continent, I'd at least consider replying. But this is just about his sister? No point reading further. Something like this isn't worth waking the Lord from a perfectly good sleep for. Furious, the white-haired which ripped the letter to shreds. Then the next day, ding ding ding, another letter arrived. The witch stopped watering the flowers. On the 3rd day, ding ding ding, another letter arrived. The witch jolted awake from her sleep. On the 4th day, ding ding ding, another letter arrived. The witch had just been about to tend to the flowers when her hand curled into a fist. The 5th day, the 6th day, the 7th day, ding dong, and so on all the way now. 38 days. The white-haired which was on the verge of a nervous breakdown and was already preparing to file a complaint with the Emperor of Rahidin. Then she suddenly noticed something was different. Today's envelope seemed unusual. Only then did the witch realize that this time, the envelope actually bore a seal. After sending illegal letters for so many days, they had now suddenly acquired an emperor-authorized delivery document. Completely absurd. Haha, these lunatics. The witch laughed in exasperation. I absolutely refused to get tangled up with the madmen of Rahidin. Meanwhile, earlier that same day, Bastian had also received reassuring news. The magical dispatch had already reached the ducal residence. The letters now bore the emperor's seal. Up until now, to avoid the eyes of the imperial capital, the envelopes had been layered with anti-tracking magic, anti-destruction protection spells, and more. But now that they had official permission from the Emperor, sending them would become far easier. Bastian thought with relief. As for those earlier illegal letters, naturally, Leon had done that. What did it have to do with me? Bastion was very satisfied. What is Sophie doing? He asked Sean. She has been resting ever since returning from the palace. Are you worried about the young lady? The Emperor wants to appoint Sophie as domina at this year's founding festival, Bastion said with a sigh. Sean understood his concern. But this will be the young lady's debut, after all. Yes, it seems he was prepared from the start. Bastion thought of the Emperor's crafty face. In high society, young ladies and gentlemen making their debut drew a great deal of attention. The more prestigious the family, and the more famous the rumors of their beauty, the more attention they received. In truth, society was simply a marketplace for noble families seeking marriage partners. Sophie was the youngest daughter of House Chedley. That alone was enough to attract attention. Not to mention that the founding festival lasted a full 5 days, the largest event in the empire. In that situation, not only was this her debut, but she had also been named Domina by the emperor himself. It was obvious he intended to make Sophie the center of discussion. Domina, Echem, and the preparations for her debut are hardly satisfactory either. Bastion muttered irritably, then let out a sigh. In any case, it truly is a cunning move. But Elio had always been like that. Every time, he wanted Bastion to suffer a little while trying to protect Sophie. Truthfully, Bastion had not been especially attached to Sophie in the beginning. Back when the previous Duke and Duchess were still alive, when Sophie was still small, Bastion had paid her no attention at all. He had been so cold it was as if she were not his family. When her mother once asked him whether his little sister was cute, he answered, "Why should I think she's cute?" He still remembered the flustered expressions of his parents. Unlike Leon, who had displayed magical talent from an early age, 3-year-old Sophie had possessed no especially outstanding ability. At 8 years old, Bastion had seen the world as a place where everyone's value was judged only by ability. That was why he had not understood his parents and had not understood Sophie either. Not until that incident when Sophie was 10. Bastion sighed, but his thoughts were interrupted by Sean. After replying to Sean's concern, he continued discussing matters. How many noble houses will attend this year's founding festival? Bastion signaled for Sean to continue his report. If it's not much different from last year, probably around 100, and with the noble families coming for the queen selection as well, there may be even more than last year. In other words, there would be more eyes on Sophie than ever before. There were already many nobles who wanted Sophie as a spouse for their children. And on top of that, there would be all the fools who would fall in love with Sophie at first sight. At the very least, dozens. Those insolent idiots dare covet my adorable Sophie. Just imagining it was enough to make Bastion faint with anger. He immediately ordered Sean in a fury. Find out the list of all the noble houses attending the founding festival and summaries of every unmarried noble. If her debut can't be stopped, then I'll just clean out every last one of those common worms. Bastion smiled frighteningly. Compared with the sea of flames raging on my brother's side, things on my side were bright and sunny. I took a bite of egg tart and sighed happily. Seriously, the head chef's cooking keeps getting better and better. Looks like the kitchen tools I bought last time are really useful. Life really is all about money, freedom, and good food. Oh right, Monica, hasn't Jella written back yet? I suddenly remembered. No, not yet. The letter has already reached the eastern village, but there's still no reply. I felt a little troubled. Was she busy lately? It had already been a week since I sent it. She couldn't be avoiding me by running away. Could she? Just then, I saw my puppy-like maids rushing toward me in a cluster. Miss, is it true that you'll be the domina at this year's founding festival? Tell us quickly, is it true? The second I heard, I ran over without even finishing my meal. The maids chirped noisily over one another. I truly hadn't expected the news to spread so quickly. Yes, I'm going to be the domina. The moment I said that, the maids hugged each other and shouted with joy. Then came the familiar flood of praise. This ball won't need lighting, because Miss's face will shine on its own. Miss will probably shed stars with every step she takes. I knew it. The true star of the founding festival is Miss. I calmly took a sip of tea. Were they really that happy? I'd only accepted it reluctantly. Now that we know, we have to start preparing the dress right away. We must make the most beautiful gown in the world, Paige declared first. Paige, what are you worried about? Our Miss's face is decoration and fashion all by itself. Exactly. Miss shines even without dressing up. And amidst the maid's compliments, I picked up on the deeper meaning. So, Miss, who will you ask to escort you? As expected, the battlefield had arrived sooner or later. But what the maids asked was, the master is here, and the young master is here too. Which one of them will enter with you? I had never even thought about this before. Noble ladies at balls did indeed seem to need male escorts. Usually an older male relative escorted a young lady, while a young nobleman would be accompanied by an older female relative. So which of my brothers, the eldest or second, was supposed to enter with me? If it came to that, wouldn't war break out? How about I just lose my mind and walk in alone? Then I noticed something strange. Among the excited maids, there was one quiet figure. Violet, who was usually the happiest and loudest, was unexpectedly silent. When I asked about it with concern, Violet didn't answer. Instead, the other maids started speaking over one another. Miss, don't worry about it. We're working today, so you should head back first. I narrowed my eyes immediately. Something was wrong. 90% wrong? No, 99% wrong. Why was the atmosphere so strange? I folded my arms and said sternly like a homeroom teacher, wait. Everyone stop. Don't hide it from me. Violet, you say it yourself. Hurry. Violet stayed silent for a long time, her lips sticking out enough to hang an oil bottle from. Then she suddenly burst into tears, rushed forward, hugged me, and cried, Miss! My heart clenched. So what was it? Her fiancé cheated on her. I listened as Violet haltingly explained everything. And in the end, that was exactly it. Violet cried miserably, and Paige answered for her. Yes, we only found out yesterday. That bastard. If I remembered right, Violet's fiancé was named Charles. She liked him so much even I knew about it. Since she couldn't wear a ring while working, Violet wore her engagement ring around her neck. But weren't they only engaged half a year ago? I asked in disbelief. Paige said angrily, exactly, but that Charles bastard cheated anyway. And he's serving as a knight for some noble young lady's household. Which one was it again? Count Chloe's family. Paige was indignant. Chloe, that sounded like the family running the trading company. I think that family had 3 daughters. Does that young lady know that her knight already has a fiancé? Is she dating him while knowing that? Hearing my question, Paige hesitated. Well, we don't know. Wah, miss, you don't need to worry about it. I'm sorry. Violet's eyes were swollen from crying. The other party was a noble lady. That really was the problem. Violet was a commoner. She could do nothing against a noble lady. The rigid class system didn't even allow commoners and nobles to speak freely. I'd grown up among commoners myself, so I wasn't particularly bothered by those rules, which was why I got along with them so well. But don't cry anymore, Violet. Seeing my adorable little Maltese puppy cry like this made my heart ache. I pulled poor Violet into a hug. Monica, go call Ginny here right now. I turned and gave the order. And prepare 20 sticks too. I will absolutely not let Charles off. That bastard is going to die by my hand. The carriage was already prepared when Violet hurried over and said, Miss, I'm really fine. I immediately retorted, what do you mean, fine? I'm not fine. If someone makes my person cry, then he'd better prepare to cry tears of blood. Violet, trust me. I patted her shoulders solemnly. I'll make sure that bastard gets the beating he deserves. Violet's eyes brimmed with moved tears. Miss, please be careful and come back quickly. Royal Kickin' Park, a sacred dating spot for lovers, and also the place where I was about to make my move. Ginny, let's begin searching. Fair skin, pale green eyes, platinum blonde hair close to cream. The plan was simple. Find Miss Chloe, confirm the facts, punish Charles. If Miss Chloe turned out to be just as rotten as Charles, warn her harshly and then punish Charles. If she didn't know the truth and had been deceived, then punish Charles severely. Either way, Charles was getting punished. The more I thought about it, the more despicable he seemed. Miss Chloe was only 17 this year. That damn Charles was already 27. He wasn't young anymore. Not only was he cheating, he was also seducing an underage young lady. At that moment, Jenny found the target. I found Miss Chloe. I quietly instructed Jenny, wait here for now. Come over only when I call you. I stepped forward and cleared my throat. Miss Chloe immediately came back to her senses. Courtesy first, force later. I greeted her with a smile. Hello, Miss Elia. As expected, Miss Chloe didn't know me. I hadn't even made my debut in society yet, and here we were meeting like this. Life was truly unpredictable. We met at the Count's birthday banquet, remember? Of course, in reality, no such thing had happened. After trying hard to recall, Elia asked awkwardly, I'm sorry, which family are you from? I immediately made one up. The second daughter of Baron Miller's family. What should I do? I'm terribly sorry. I really can't remember. Elia apologized awkwardly, and I immediately acted as if I didn't mind. From this first impression, she didn't seem like a bad person. I'd better learn a little more. That was my private assessment. By the way, are you waiting for someone? I casually brought up a topic. Ilya stammered, and I immediately began acting. It's all right. Everyone who comes here knows why, don't they? Me too. Ilya immediately asked, Miss, you too? You too. I leaned closer and whispered, a promise with a lover. We just met a little while ago. Then I happened to see you here, Mississippi. Ilya seemed to start lowering her guard. Good. Time to continue the operation slowly. I put on my dramatic act even more. You know, feelings are something you can't control. My father wants me to marry for alliance. But what's the point of a marriage without love? Especially when I already have someone I like. Ilya was immediately drawn in and looked at me. Perfect timing to strike while the iron was hot. Covering my face shyly, I said, actually, I'm in love with a knight from our household. If my father found out, I'd surely be punished. Ilya completely dropped her guard and exclaimed in surprise, Miss, you too? Then she admitted it herself. She was seeing one of the household guard knights. I immediately acted shocked. My goodness, you too? I took Ilya's hand and sighed. Then how did the two of you come to understand each other's feelings? Ilya said bashfully, the way he protected me was so handsome. Was he the knight commander? I asked with feigned surprise. Ilya shyly denied it. He was only recently promoted to knight. Is he around your age? I pressed. Ilya shyly denied that too, saying there was a bit of an age difference. That made my anger surge. A bit of an age difference? He was old enough to be in the uncle generation. That bastard Charles. Ilya added shyly. Even so, he loves me more than anyone. Charles has lived only for swordsmanship. He never cared about girls before. Ilya's face was flushed red. I forced the corners of my mouth into a smile and went along with it. That does sound handsome, but in reality, I was boiling with rage. As expected, this young lady knew nothing about the cheating. That man was nothing but a shameless scoundrel trifling with women everywhere. Just then, Charles arrived. Flustered, he asked Ilya who I was. Ilya happily introduced me. This is Miss Mel, daughter of Baron Miller. She's my friend. This young lady is also secretly dating one of her household knights. I see. The moment Charles heard that from Ilya, he relaxed. After letting out a sigh of relief, he greeted me. A pleasure to meet you. What was with that self-satisfied expression? It was disgusting. I said casually, I heard that for 27 years you lived only for swordsmanship. I didn't expect you to be so handsome. Charles, shameless as ever, wasn't modest in the slightest. I smiled and asked directly, so Miss Ilya is your first love, is that right? Charles jumped a little before saying, yes. It was love at first sight for me, though I know my status should not permit it. Ilya stood up and took Charles's hand. Don't say that. I can persuade my father. Listening to this, I was furious. This young lady probably believed her father was the biggest obstacle, never realizing that the real obstacle was the cheating bastard right beside her. I pretended to be touched and cut into their exchange. How beautiful, the way the two of you care for each other like this. Ilya looked a little shy from the praise, and Charles hastily said he wasn't worthy of her. At that moment, I smiled and said, like Violet. Charles's eyes widened in terror at once. I continued smiling. Violet flowers really do resemble Charles, don't they? And at that moment, I was certain Charles was dead. You mean violets? Charles asked nervously. I smiled. Of course, there happened to be some blooming right here. See? If not that, what else could I mean? And no, nothing, huh? Charles gave an awkward laugh, looking deeply unsettled. Now that I think about it, Miss, your colors are also very similar to Violet's. Is that because you two are a couple? Looking at the flustered Charles, I felt indignant on behalf of both women. Such a cowardly and fickle man had betrayed the feelings of two girls. Ilya looked delighted, so I smoothly added, someday, I should give her a gift, an ornament with the same violet pendant. The moment I finished speaking, the scumbag looked ready to faint from fright. I turned around and showed Ilya. Just like this one. It's an ornament I like very much. I'll give one to you too, Mississippi. Ilya thanked me happily. Then please come visit our house one day when you have time. Looking at her cheerful little face, I couldn't help thinking she was quite adorable. In contrast, the sweat on Charles's forehead was practically pooling. Even this sort of person dared cheat. His nerve was unbelievable. I gave a little snort and pressed the attack. My, Mr. Charles, why have you been sweating the whole time? It isn't even that hot. As it happens, I have a handkerchief here in Violet's color. I pulled a violet-colored handkerchief from my pocket. But you didn't expect that, scumbag. I handed the handkerchief to Miss Elia. Use this to wipe him off. Elia thanked me and even praised how pretty the handkerchief was. I immediately offered to give Elia one too. Charles panicked and tried to knock the handkerchief away, but instead hit Elia. Elia stared at Charles in shocked confusion. I immediately pressed the advantage. Charles, do you really dislike me that much? Why are you trying to knock away the gift I gave the lady? Or did something I said happen to strike a nerve? I put my hands on my hips and demanded. Elia also felt Charles had been acting strangely today, but she nervously swallowed and tried to explain. Miss Mel, I'm very sorry. Charles normally isn't like this. You don't need to apologize, miss, I said, stepping forward. I'm out of patience, Mr. Charles. Confess while I'm still willing to speak nicely. Holding up the violet-colored handkerchief, I asked, seeing this, do you still think of nothing? Charles glanced at Elia and stubbornly insisted, no, haha. Since he refused to admit it even now, I could hardly be blamed for what came next. I apologized to Elia as I strode quickly toward Charles. Then I clenched my fist and delivered a clean uppercut. By the time Charles opened his eyes, I was holding a letter in my hand. To my dear Violet. I had only read the opening line before Charles jerked his head up. Jenny, Elia, and I formed a three-way circle around Charles. I read aloud the letter Charles had written to Violet. After finishing, I couldn't help commenting that it was terribly written. Charles stared at me in shock and demanded, "Who exactly are you?" Since he had asked so sincerely, I mercifully answered. Looking at Elia, I introduced myself. I am Sophie of House Chedley. The Duke's daughter who disappeared and then returned? Yes, that one. But that isn't important. Please look at this first. I handed the letter and the engagement ring to Elia. Then I thoroughly explained everything from beginning to end. Seeing Elia look utterly crushed, I felt a little sorry. This sudden revelation had to be an enormous blow. Just as I was about to comfort her, she suddenly swore, "You son of a bitch." Elia gripped the letter tightly and said darkly, "You're lower than a dog." Lady Chedley. Elia suddenly turned to me, and I instinctively stood straighter. "It's a little late, but it's a pleasure to meet you." She continued through gritted teeth, "Excuse me for a moment." Then she walked over to Charles. Charles tried to struggle and beg Elia's forgiveness, but Elia raised her leg and kicked Charles squarely in the groin. I was utterly shaken. I hadn't expected someone so bright and sweet to have this side to her too. It was so satisfying. "My lady, thank you." Lady Chedley. "How can I ever thank you enough?" Elia turned to me. "If it weren't for you, I would have remained in the dark forever. Thank you for telling me." I immediately said that she ought to thank herself more for being willing to hear me out. "But are you all right?" No matter what, this must have been a shock. Elia sighed. "Honestly, no. But now that I know, what else can I do? Please apologize to your maid for me." Elia handed the letter and ring back to me. But this wasn't Elia's fault. It should never have been Elia's fault. Elia said sadly, "No matter what, she was hurt because of me." I immediately retorted, "That was clearly all Charles's fault." Elia gave a small laugh. "I owe you a great debt, Mississippi." I awkwardly scratched my head. I come here only intending to punish Charles. I hadn't expected it to go so much more smoothly than I imagined. Elia was unexpectedly open-minded. Clutching her skirt, she nervously called out, "Lady Sophie, you can't pretend you never said you'd come visit my house." Now it was my turn to panic. What I'd said earlier about giving ornaments as gifts had only been to provoke Charles. I actually had no idea where to buy them. Elia smiled and shook her head. "That doesn't matter. The ornament doesn't matter. I just want to become closer with you, Sophie." Blushing, Elia said, "Our first meeting wasn't exactly ideal, but perhaps that too is fate. And I'm very grateful that you saved me." My heart practically started stampeding. Was this shyness? She was too cute, like a soft little rice cake. I was so charmed I nearly drooled. With an audible sniff, I answered, "If you're inviting me, then of course I'm grateful. If I have time, I'll go. As it happens, I don't have a single friend in the capital." Hearing that, little rice cake lady brightened up and said, "Then it's a promise." At that moment, I suddenly remembered something very important. I raised 3 fingers and solemnly declared, "When you date a man in the future, remember these 3 things. Young, rich, tall, and handsome, with good muscles. When a man is handsome, he looks impressive. When he's ugly, he just looks pretentious, just like Charles." After hearing that, Elia burst into laughter. Is this the complete list? A hand pointed at the document as its owner asked in a tone like some villain. And the owner of that hand truly was the villain, my brother Bastion. He was currently facing a heartfelt problem: how to stop his younger sister, me, from being coveted by others. The number of unmarried nobles coming this year is twice last year's. The queen selection really has had a huge effect. Is the position of empress really that desirable? Bastion sighed. Sean asked, "May I ask why you aren't investigating only the young lords around the young lady's age, but all unmarried nobles?" Bastion removed his glasses. "Because those who will be captivated by our adorable Sophie's charm will not be limited by sex." Sean's gaze drifted away. Although same-sex marriage was legal in Rahadin, he had not expected Bastion to so naturally include noble ladies among the possible targets. Was this overprotective or open-minded? Either way, one thing was certain: I should never have asked that question. Sean changed the subject. "But doesn't the young lady also need to make friends?" "Of course I know that, but I still have to identify all the dangerous elements first." No sooner had Bastion finished speaking than the communication device began to buzz. It took Bastion only 1 second to guess by instinct that the one calling was the mortal emperor. "What is it, your majesty? You contact me after so long, and the first thing you ask is what is it?" "As heartless as ever," the emperor said with a laugh. Bastion said impatiently, "Please get to the point." Such an impatient temperament. "How hurtful," the emperor said smugly. "It's nothing major. Has Sophie's partner for the founding festival been decided yet? Don't forget, your family has 2 young men, you know." Bastion was struck as if by sudden enlightenment. "And as for me, the person at the center of it all, I'd only just gotten out of bed when I heard a maid humming cheerfully in the hallway. 'Good morning, Vivian. You seem to be in a very good mood today.' I greeted the maid. Not just me. Everyone is." Vivian motioned for me to look at the other maids. My puppy-like maids were usually lively, yes, but not to this degree. Completely baffled, I asked what happened. Vivian replied energetically, "Nothing happened. We're just like this because we got to relieve our stress. After a good workout yesterday, all our stress disappeared. Yesterday, I had dragged Charles back to the estate. At first, Charles had actually had the nerve to blame Violet, saying she had tried to come between him and the young lady, and cursing Violet for not knowing her place. He'd shouted that Violet was exactly the kind of extreme woman who made him hate women, that women ought to be gentle, cute, obedient, and pleasing, and that she had nothing to offer except dragging him down. Just look at this useless, cowardly man. I was the one who had him tied up and brought here, yet all he could do was lose his temper at Violet, the easiest target to bully. Rage surged through me, and I was just about to step in. But our adorable dog-eared maid had already charged forward. Smack! The sound of the slap was thunderous. "Well done. Who do you think you're acting so high and mighty in front of? You look like someone's shoe sole hit your face 500 times. And you dare make our Violet cry? You're dead." Then the maids all swarmed him and beat him up. I quietly walked outside and pretended I hadn't seen anything. The stick had only been meant to scare him in the first place, but as long as no one died, it should be fine. Vivian suddenly leaned in close, snapping me out of my memories. "Miss, if another guy like that ever shows up, you have to tell us. Just thinking about our Violet getting hurt makes me so upset. We should have taught that bastard an even harsher lesson." Vivian walked along, fuming. I broke out in a bit of sweat. He'd already been beaten badly enough. I reminded Vivian, "I'm saying this just in case. You mustn't go around hitting people anywhere else, okay?" Vivian immediately turned around. "Why, yes, of course." Then she gave me a thumbs up. "I'll only hit things that aren't human." He stared at her speechlessly. Somehow, it felt like something had gone wrong with my dog maid. As I was sitting in the study, Monica came in with a report. Anything related to my little stash of money was important. As I flipped through the report, I discovered that there were far fewer alchemists and mages than I had expected. According to the plan, 1 ton of silver moonstone will be delivered at the beginning of next month. I hadn't expected finding people to research it and refine it to be the hardest step. I thought it would be easier to find people in the capital. Monica agreed with me. That's what I thought too, but after looking into it, I found out why. First, most mages with any real skill belong to the magic tower. The others have been stationed in the border regions. It's the same for alchemists. According to rumor, it's because the number of monsters along the border has increased over the last few years. It was only a rumor going around among the people, but unfortunately, the master of the magic tower was right here in this house. Top-tier manpower was right in front of me, yet I couldn't use it. I slumped over the desk in disappointment. Then keep investigating the people we can still contact. I had just given the order when there was a knock on my door. Miss, you have a letter, a maid said. I instantly got excited. After 10 whole days, had Jella finally written back? But instead, the maid pulled the door open, and a palace courier appeared carrying an enormous package. What has a palace courier come here for? I asked nervously. I have been sent to deliver a gift from His Majesty the Emperor. The moment the courier said that, a terrible sense of foreboding washed over me. Why didn't you just have a maid bring the letter? This time a letter has some weight to it, so I had no choice but to deliver it personally. As he spoke, the courier opened the package. My ominous premonition grew stronger and stronger. With my heart refusing to stay calm and my hands trembling, I asked in disbelief, "What is this?" These are the things the Domina must do for the founding festival. Please read it carefully and prepare accordingly. The courier said it calmly. What? I felt like my jaw had fallen right off. I still remembered what the Emperor had said. The things the Domina needs to do will be organized and sent to the ducal house. It's not as much as you think, so don't worry. And now, all I could do was clench my fists and curse him as a filthy liar. Because the Domina stands in for the holy goddess, she has to undergo strict supervision even before the founding festival. In the original story, after the heroine Teresa was appointed as Domina, she also went through a difficult period. But I truly had not expected it to be such a gigantic scroll. And it still wasn't over. The courier continued. His Majesty also asked me to pass along a message to you. Our Amelia can do it. The courier even made a finger heart, vividly imitating the Emperor's smug expression. How utterly irritating. Monica, am I dreaming? 2 streams of noodle-like tears ran down my face. If I am not currently asleep, Monica replied in an extremely tactful, roundabout way. I slowly pulled open just a little bit of the scroll, planning to admire these sacred contents. Blah blah blah. Eat vegetarian food, drink only plain water, and then a pile of tedious rituals and etiquette. This was practically a criminal sentence. Monica rubbed her brows. It's more than I imagined, too. I burst into tears like a sad little puppy. More than imagined? This was obviously trying to kill me. At that moment, Monica pointed to the red marked text on the scroll and said, "The parts marked in red are what you personally need to do, Mississippi. The rest will be handled by the maids. We'll take care of it." I leaned in and looked. What I needed to do was write a prayer and visit the goddess's temple. In other words, go to the temple and offer prayers to the goddess. Monica comforted me. It's mostly just ceremonial, so you don't need to think of it as too complicated. Then I suddenly realized something. If I remembered correctly, the temple of the goddess wasn't here. It was on the absurdly tall Mount El Difa. How are we supposed to get up there? Back then, I really should have refused outright. And then the next line said, "The Domina's companion shall accompany the Domina and share in all ritual observances." What kind of thing is a Domina's companion? I looked at Monica. Monica explained, "It means the person who will accompany you during the founding festival. Mississippi, usually the lover, but for you, a direct family member accompanying you will be enough." The moment I heard that, everything went dark before my eyes. A direct family member? Wouldn't that mean my eldest brother and second brother? This strangely familiar situation. Wasn't this exactly the setup for a battlefield? Just then, my eldest brother and second brother pushed open my door at the same time. I knew this was how things were going to turn out. Huh.